meeting of the Lynn Haven City Commission on today, July the 14th, which is, interestingly, Bastille Day, or the day that the French declared their independence, sort of like our Independence Day. So for all of you with French heritage and those in France, happy Bastille Day. At this time, would you please stand with me for a word of prayer and then the Pledge of Allegiance? Our Father in heaven, we thank you so much for bringing us together today to discuss the business of the city. We thank you for each resident who's here today and each representative of each family. I pray today especially, Lord, for those who are sick and even those who are fearful of this illness that is upon our land. And I pray for you to put your great healing hands on this country of ours, our county, our city, Lord. Heal this land of this virus and give the scientists and the doctors and the healthcare workers that knowledge that they need, and give us faith to believe that we will come through this as we've come through so many trials in our country's history. And we also pray for the rest of the world, Lord, that our country might be the leader in finding that virus vaccination or that cure, that we might be that leader that could share with the rest of the world and push forward as we always have, that this country has a heart of compassion for all and a heart of generosity, Lord. We ask now that you be with each family that's here. We ask these things in Christ's name. Amen. Would you please join me in the Pledge of Allegiance? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. You may be seated. Item number 3 is the mayor's report. Just wanted to let you know I have been keeping up with Governor DeSantis's meetings, as well as listening and keeping abreast of Bay County and all of the updated information on the COVID virus. We are using social distancing in our meeting today and a limited number of participants for those who may be watching online. And while masks are not mandated and there's a lot of controversy about whether masks should be worn or not worn, I just wanted to speak as the mayor and tell you that I'm not wearing one right now. I have one in my hand, but I want to tell you the reason I'm not wearing one is so that I can be heard and I can be seen and I'm socially distanced. But I just wanted to urge all of you to be careful and to use caution when you're in public places, and let you know that as the mayor, when I am in a grocery store or I have to go out on errands and I'm in closed public places, I do use a mask, and I encourage you to think of those around you. I don't know if the science is correct. I know there's a lot of science that says they're good and a lot of science that says it's bad, but in the interest of public health and in the interest of caring for those who may be compromised immune systems, or even when I visit my mother who's 82 years old, I try to wear the mask. So I'm just letting you know that that's where the mayor is, and hope you accept that with the spirit with which it was offered. Also, I had the opportunity to participate with the Heritage Society in the dedication of our monument here in Lynn Haven. Our town was founded by a Union soldier, a veteran of the Civil War, and we're the only town in the South actually that has a Union monument. And one of the things that's interesting is that monument does have a brother monument in the north, which faces south, and the monument here faces north. And it's a symbol of how the two parts of our country became unified after the war. So we added that plaque, and one of the things that I brought up at the dedication that I wanted to speak to at this commission meeting and ask that we put it on the next agenda, because we can't really talk in public unless we're in public, rather. And as I was looking at that monument, the cement or concrete part of it looks pretty battle worn, to use a better word. And I was hoping that we might consider as a commission maybe looking at getting granite or marble tile and fixing that. And then around the bottom of it, that we might take the names of all of the Civil War veterans from our cemetery and maybe put some bronze plaques around the bottom and actually honor the names of those, because we've cared for that cemetery for over 100 years. And it would be nice to honor them. I would also like to see us possibly do something similar to what the Compassionate Friends just did at the garden at Kensall Park with the walls that they have. If you haven't seen that park at Kensall, it is so beautiful. But if we had a wall for each branch of the service, the Army, the Navy, the Coast Guard, the Air Force, and the Marine Corps, we could do sort of a circle around that monument and then leave little indentions where people could purchase a bronze or brass plaque with the name of the veterans of their family who've served in those branches. And anyway, those are just some ideas I had. I'm sure some of you probably have some more creative ideas. Maybe put a flag there for each branch of service, but something to make that a true memorial park that would honor all the veterans and the sacrifices that have been made through the decades here. So those are just my thoughts that maybe we could look at that in the future. And with that, the mayor's reports, I'll end it there. And I have one other item, and that is a proclamation that I would like to read at this time. And because of social distancing, this proclamation is in honor of the Mullins Pharmacy Day that we would like to proclaim for the Mullins family. And we have several representatives. So because of the social distancing, I'll let you stay there. And then in just a moment, when I read the proclamation, then we'll have you come up and we'll take a photograph if that's okay. Thank you so much for being here. This proclamation. Whereas the Mullins Pharmacy has demonstrated outstanding professional services to the city of Lynn Haven for 47 years. And whereas 2 generations of the Mullins family have operated the Mullins Pharmacy since 1972. And whereas the city of Lynn Haven recognizes with respect and admiration the contribution of the Mullins family to the city of Lynn Haven. And whereas the city commends the Mullins family for their dedication to serving citizens and filling a sizable need in this community by offering prescriptions, compounding, sundries, flowers, and gifts. And whereas the city will be eternally grateful to the Mullins family for their unwavering spirit and support during such difficult times, including the aftermath of Hurricane Michael, the COVID-19 pandemic, and through personal illness within their family. And whereas Flower Apothecary and Compounding, who will remain dispensing custom compounded medications to those in need. And whereas the city greatly appreciates the Mullins family and wishes them the very best in this new business chapter. Now, therefore, by virtue of the authority vested in me as mayor of the city of Lynn Haven, on behalf of the city commission and all the citizens of Lynn Haven, I do hereby proclaim July 14th, 2020 as Mullins Pharmacy Day, honoring the Mullins family for their dedication and service to the citizens of Lynn Haven. In witness whereof, I do hereby set my hand and cause the seal of the city of Lynn Haven to be affixed this 14th day of July, 2020. And if you would all join me in front of the podium, I'd love to present you with a plaque, a key to the city. And we won't think badly of you at all if you want to miss the rest of our exciting meeting. Bye-bye. Thank you for being here. We'll move on to item number 4 now, which is the commissioner's report. We'll start today with Commissioner Perno.
Thank you, Mayor. I too attended the statue ceremony, and over the last couple of weeks, through our agenda tonight, I've met with several parties involved with some of our agenda items, and I've read many emails from residents, and I've also worked with several residents that were having issues from Commissioner Tender's last report when she mentioned the dog park and the lights. So certain resident mentioned maybe that the lights were coming from some headlights that were in there after hours. So that's always been an issue here in Lynn Haven. And I spoke with our police chief, Rick Ramey, and it seems that there's going to be a watch out there for stuff like that, which is ongoing. So, and that's about it. It's been a busy couple of weeks. I know we've had 3 weeks between our last meeting, so, and it's buzzing. So I appreciate everything.
Thank you, Commissioner Perno. Commissioner Aldridge?
Thank you, Mayor. It has been a busy 3 weeks. I agree with Commissioner Perno. I too have been receiving phone calls, having lunches, receiving emails. A lot of fun stuff on the agenda tonight that we get to talk about. But again, I want to assure everyone, and I say this anytime I email back, I would ask every resident to always remember that everything we do, we care about you. I mean, otherwise we wouldn't do this job. So anytime that we're looking at these big projects, again, I just want to keep it as a reminder. We're taking every side into account. We're taking everything into account that we can to try to be as fair as we can to everyone. So thank you, everybody, for showing out and being involved in your community as well. So that's all I have, Mayor. Thank you.
Thank you. Before I call on Commissioner Russell, I had left one thing off the mayor's report. I wanted to just mention to the city staff and employees and to everyone about how beautiful that the fireworks ceremony came off. Even the rain sort of dissipated at the last minute. And I noticed Mr. Finch is present. I'll thank him again for sponsoring those fireworks because it was just a beautiful event for everyone. So thank you for that. Commissioner Russell?
Thank you, Mayor. Same sentiment, been busy answering phone calls, answering emails. I guess the biggest concern I've gotten from citizens, and I've assured them that I don't think that's the case, but I've had a couple of them question whether we're actually going to build the rec park back. And I was assured them that this commission has not made a decision not to. So, but just want to let that out there in case anybody asks, you'll know to relate that, or relieve them of that concern. Also want to thank the contractors for Kane Griffin. It's coming together. The roof's on, the walls are on, the fields are coming together, and I'm excited that it looks like we may have spring ball. So, and y'all know how I am about the kids. So thank you for the city manager and everybody else for making that happen. Thank you for the commission for making that happen. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you. And Commissioner Tender, and for those of you who are just tuning into the meeting, Commissioner Tender is attending the meeting by phone this evening. So welcome, Commissioner Tender, and we're ready for your report.
Thank you. Mine sounds very similar to everybody else's. The fireworks were great, and I appreciate the employees that had to work. Everybody was wearing raincoats, but it actually stopped right as they were starting. And I had a lot of people say thank you. They were glad that we went ahead with the fireworks. I've been talking to Greg Kidwell about the lift station in the country club on some property, and I've talked to the owners of that property and whatnot, and I think we've come to a resolution that everybody is happy with. Also, code enforcement. I received a call the other day. I've actually received two about how tall the lawn and the grass is at our post office. And the people were calling me saying, who do I call? I mean, and one lady had already called Tallahassee and talked to the postmaster about the lawn and how terrible it looked. But when I contacted code enforcement, he assured me they have already written them up. They have hired a lawn care service, so we should start to see a good looking lawn at the post office. And I've just been dealing with some other code enforcement issues, and that's about it. People are really coming forward and being very vocal, and they're being very vocal about some of the things on our agenda tonight. So that's about it, I think. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Tender. Moving on to item number 5. This is the city manager's report. Mrs. Vicki Gaynor.
Thank you, Mayor. Just a couple of things I wanted to update you on. The Garden Center was actually recognized by the Bay County Chamber as with the Apple of Our Eye Award, and I give that credit to Joe Footen and his staff for doing just a tremendous job on the garden center and making that look really, really great. So I want to give them kudos for that. I did receive a call about 813 Pennsylvania Avenue. The city has been looking at that property a lot and was offered the opportunity to talk to the person who would like to give the city first dibs on that property, which we talked about almost 2 years ago. The commission gave the city manager then the ability to at least negotiate some with the person that would want to sell the property. But before we can do anything, we still have to do an appraisal. And so that's where we are now. Once we get the appraisal back and we speak with the seller, then we will bring it back to the commission for their approval, for your approval. Lastly, Mayor, I won't take up too much time. There are a lot of great things going on in the city. The senior center continues to be on track. We have seniors every day that call and ask, we still on track? Yes, we are on track. I think, again, Joe Footen and his team are doing an amazing job and saving the city a lot of money in the process of that. But lastly, a really great thing for the residents that we talked about probably over a year ago of doing a self-service or self-serve for the citizens here in the city of Lynn Haven. One of the biggest problems we had is that a lot of the residents did not want to, and I don't blame them, pay online and pay that $3 fee just to be able to pay online. So the city changed vendors, and it is a self-serve that actually connects to our financial software system. And so now the citizens will be able to go online, sign up for this self-serve, pay your utility billing online, and it is real time. So when you pay it, someone in the customer service department can actually see, yes, I see your bill has been paid and is pending. Just a couple of things I want you to know that this new self-serve will be able to do. Of course, it will be free, so you will not be charged that $3. The other thing, like I said, is real time. I was the guinea pig. I actually went through and paid my utility bill, and everything went absolutely wonderful. Citizens will be able to see their past history for over a year, their consumption of what they bought, they used last month, this month. That'll be a really great tool for you to have, and you won't have to call the city to get that information. Particularly in this town where we have a lot of military families who move out and then have to maybe disconnect to go to another town and then wait for us to send a final bill so that they can send a check back. They no longer will have to do that. Once we upload their final bill, then they'll be able to pay it from wherever they are and close out their account. We are working on another update on the utility billing module so that we can go ahead with the radio read upgrade as well, and that will connect to what we have now. So I encourage you to sign up for it and to have the ability to go into your account anytime and look at it and see what you owe. If you have several accounts, say for instance, you have several homes within the city of Lynn Haven, all of your accounts will be there. You won't have to log on, log out, then log back on again to pay another account. You can pay them all at one time, and there is no fee for any of that. And then the last thing is that there's no limit of what you can pay. In our old billing system, I think you could only pay up to about $200, and then you would have to log out, log back in to pay. You will no longer have to do that. You'll be able to handle and manage your own account. So it's a great service that we think that the citizens will enjoy. We encourage you to go on and sign up for it. If you have any questions, please contact the customer service department. They will walk you through. If you need someone to help you set up your account, they'll walk you through how to set it up. So we're pretty excited about that. Long time coming. That is one of the things that we talked about, that we would move our technology forward, and we're right in the midst of doing that and continue to move forward.
Thank you. I know there'll be a lot of people happy about that. Moving on to item number 6 is our city attorney's report. Mr. Albritton?
Thank you, Mayor. In accordance with the commission's vote at our last meeting, the city manager and I have been working diligently to move forward on the design build of certain city infrastructures. According to what the city manager and I have discussed, there will need to be a design criteria professional to put the package together. She's reached out to the three candidates who are under continuing contracts. For one reason or the other, they are not available to actually put the design criteria package together, although one has said that they would be willing to write a solicitation so that the city can engage a design criteria professional. So that's why it's not on the agenda for further discussion, because we've got to get to that point. And lastly, although I would ask if Commissioner Tender can hear me, if she would clarify for me which buildings that she wanted to see be constructed using the design build delivery method at this point in time.
Yeah, I would be happy to. At that meeting, Mr. Finch was there, and his offer was $15 million maximum with no change orders. And he said he would build the police department and either tear down the old library and put up a new one. He said if we needed the senior center done, he would take care of that. And City Hall, that's what I heard. And that's what I made a motion on. And it was 15 million max.
Commissioner Tender, at this time, we cannot accept any offer from Mr. Finch.
Right.
My understanding of your motion was for the police department and to look at other things going forward. So obviously I misunderstood you, but that being said, you cannot base your motion off of something that Mr. Finch offered. Mr. Finch, I'm sure, will evaluate whether or not he wants to put in a bid when that time comes, and you certainly will have an opportunity to evaluate his bid. But at this point, what I need to know is what the design criteria professional who will put together the bid will need to know is what buildings did you want included for the design criteria package?
For the design build, I would like to see the ones that I just mentioned: the police department, City Hall, the either demolition of the library or fix that one up, but it would include a library as well. And I don't think we have anything left to do on the senior center.
Okay.
Mayor, I have a question.
Commissioner Russell, yes.
Since you're seeking clarification, I would think you would also want to verify that the person that seconded that motion had the same assumption. And if it's not, then this commission needs to consider a vote.
I think it would be appropriate to ensure that everybody on the commission understood what they were voting for one way or the other. Yes.
Mr. Albritton, would you advise the chairperson at this point to entertain further discussion, or would you ask Commissioner Tender to repeat her motion to see if that second is still there? Please give the advice to the chairperson.
Mayor, at this time, my understanding or my memory is that you passed the gavel to second the motion. So I would just start by, we'll try and do it as informally as we can to start with, to see if we
Of
can
course.
pass it. So I'd start by asking, was that your understanding of the second that you made, that you were seconding the design build for the police department, City Hall, and demo of the library and replacement of the library in some form?
Full disclosure to the commission, Mr. Albritton and I did have a discussion about the verbiage of the draft that he's working on right now for this solicitation. And I listened to the meeting several times, again, due to the discussion you and I had. And my understanding of what Commissioner Tender said when I seconded the motion was when she said she was looking at design build starting out with, because we talked about the fact that the police department was the most important to us, that they have a hardened facility in these times in which we're living right now. And then she said something to the effect, and I'll have to go back again to listen, but it was that, and then follow with the rest of and she was talking about in her motion, my understanding was the library and the city hall. So that was my understanding when I seconded it, but certainly would entertain discussion from the rest of the commission if they're, would like to discuss it, so.
And just so the commission's aware, in anticipation of this meeting, I went through Attorney General opinions or AGO opinions. When you're doing a design build, and you're doing it in phases, either you have to award phases, let's say there's 3, just making up a number, you'd have to award all 3 to the same contractor at one time and negotiate on all 3, or you would have to, if you're going to do the police department and then follow up, which to me indicates phasing and maybe not awarding all at one time, then you would have to do another solicitation for whatever those buildings would be. And that's been the guidance from the Attorney General in the 2000s, I believe, was when the opinion was issued. So it certainly would help me understand, are we dealing with the police department and then looking at possible using this in the future on other buildings? Or are we looking at the police department and other buildings currently in one fell swoop of the solicitation?
And I think that question probably needs to be directed back to Commissioner Tender.
Yes. When I made the motion, I was making a motion on everything that Mr. Finch had said. And he made it clear that obviously it will go up for bid. But what he said, and I neglected to mention one thing that he included in that $15 million job, was either the demolition of the potential museum and the repair, if we chose to keep that corner building there on 9th and Ohio. And he even said that in that $15 million, max price. He mentioned, well, I don't know if he mentioned it. I don't know if he mentioned it either. I felt like he did, that if we did not want the police department or whatever built on the property, he was also including behind Walgreens, that he would build it wherever we wanted it. But that's everything that I heard. I mean, I felt like it was certainly a no-brainer with everything that he had said was included.
Mayor.
And I would go back and one moment, if you don't mind, I would go back and reiterate that from what I'm hearing from Commissioner Tender, I think that she understands what you said and what I've said several times, that this design build was based upon the suggestion of the savings that could be made by Mr. Finch, and not that we would use that particular plan or we would use that particular contractor, that it was just a suggestion of a more cost-efficient way to rebuild the city, and then asking you to put out solicitations. So I think that Commissioner Tender, don't let me put words in your mouth, but it sounded to me like she was just saying that she thought design build was the way to go with the municipal buildings. I didn't hear an order, but that's what I heard when I seconded it. But if the rest of this commission did not hear the same thing and they have reservations, this is certainly the time to discuss it. Commissioner Aldridge.
Yes, Mayor, that's actually what I was going to address. I'm kind of uncomfortable, just speaking out loud. I'm kind of uncomfortable with the way we're just kind of throwing around, what do we mean? Does it set a precedent, I guess, in my mind, if I put together a motion that doesn't seem to flow very well, can I come back 2 weeks later and we can discuss it again, to fix it?
And the answer to that is yes.
Well, yeah. but
Yes, you may.
Well, that's correct, but, okay. So I won't go there. We'll leave this alone. I'll leave it at this. I feel uncomfortable with the way we're doing this right now. I just do. I think that if anything, we need to pull it off and put it on another agenda, and where we actually have time to delineate what it is, because we voted on this thing too, and now it's kind of the seams are changing rotation, so to speak.
Well, I think certainly that this commission, and it may be very well appropriate if there seems to be confusion, to make a motion to add it on an agenda. That is perfectly fine. This is a ad hoc item I'm bringing up. And if there seems to be confusion as to what was approved and seconded and voted on, even what the nay vote was for, then certainly I would urge the commission to make a motion to have it put on an agenda so that you have enough time to review the matter further.
But may I ask a question of the attorney? Would before you could make another motion, would not Commissioner Tender have to withdraw her original motion, Mr. Albritton? I'm just asking.
I have yet to hear Commissioner Tender, other than suggesting what Mr. Finch told her, which Mr. Finch is under no obligation to bid on any project at this point, no matter what he talked about. I have yet to hear Commissioner Tender tell me what buildings that she wants solicited for design build. That is all I need to know. Then secondly, I want to know what your second was, and I'd ask the rest of the commission to have their input on to what it was they believe they were voting on. If there's confusion, then I certainly think therein lies the issue that we would.
I just need the protocol for the motion, Mr. Albritton, whether this needs to be withdrawn, need to be clarified. That's all I need.
I've yet to hear Commissioner Tender tell me what she wants included on the solicitation. If she could tell me that, then from there, we may have somebody on the board says, yes, that was what was voted on, or no, it was not, but I don't. Obviously, I'm confused. So
Commissioner Tender, would you like to clarify one more time? I see people wanting to speak in the public, but at this point, it's a board discussion. I cannot call on the public yet. I will call on the public, but I can't yet. Commissioner Tender, would you like to try one more time to clarify to Mr. Albritton what your motion,
Yes.
well, we know what your motion was because it's recorded. I think the clarification is needed. There seemed to be some
Okay,
discussion about what you meant when you said what you said.
okay. Well, I meant what I said, but basically what I'm saying is that we should accept a design build because it seems like the more efficient way, and it seems like the way that the city will save money rather than going through architects and everything else. And I based that on what Mr. Finch said. But Mr. Finch also said he would bid on it just like anybody else. GAC was there, anybody can bid on it. I'm not saying that it has to be Mr. Finch. But the buildings that I included were the police department, city hall, the library, either demoing the library or building a new one. And I think they were calling it something else at that point. And fixing or tearing down the corner building there that we're talking about making a museum. All those buildings, I felt like I was saying I wanted to do a design build and get a quote from whoever likes to bid on it. But I did base that on what Mr. Finch said there, because it just makes sense to me.
Mr. Albritton.
Mayor, I think at this point, based off my recollection of the meeting, I certainly know there was not a specific comment to the city hall and the library and the museum. I think the easiest way to clarify this is to have the minutes copied by a certified court reporter, and that will tell us what we need to know, because I can't substantiate that's what was said as far as police department, city hall demo. I certainly would agree to the police department, and if Commissioner Tender says she stands by her words, which are police department, and continue on from there, that's a phased process that is not specific. I think it would eliminate the any ambiguity if we just have a court reporter dictate it out and choose a certified court reporter under obligations under Florida law and provide it to everybody.
Commissioner Tender, what is your wish on your motion? Would you like to go with what your words were, the police department, and go from there, I believe is what you said? Or do you wish to, it's up to you. It's your motion to continue with or to withdraw.
Well, personally, I would like to continue with and include what I said. And yes, I did say the police department and go from there based on what we were all talking about at the time. And I apologize for not adding each building, comma, this building, comma, that building, whatever. That's what I would like. But I also have a question for Commissioner Aldridge, if I could.
Yes, ma'am.
What did you hear, Commissioner Aldridge? What did you hear in my motion?
To be 100% frank, I didn't understand. It was not coherent, in my opinion.
Okay. And is that why you voted no?
No, not necessarily. I like design bid build. I've made that known from the beginning. I think that there's, that we've talked about this back and forth, but I still feel like that's the route to go, in my opinion. And that's based off of the literature and the recommendations that we got in the email from our attorney as well. So I read over those papers and it strongly discouraged us switching at this moment. So that's where I'm basing mine off of.
Thank you, Commissioner
Switching to-
Aldridge. Go ahead. I'm sorry, Commissioner Tender.
You're upset about switching from what?
No, I'm not upset. No, I'm not. Don't take it that
Well,
way.
no,
I'm not
you said
upset.
switching.
Yes,
you
because
want
because right
switch.
now we're a design bid build, which means we have architects involved and then we bid and then we construct. What we're doing is taking that out. We're going to design build, which, you know, you're right. There's pros and cons to both. And I can't argue that, but I can only go off of the advice that I've been given from, again, legal and other, you know, Tetra Tech, who advises us throughout this whole process. And it's just discouraged to change from a design bid build to a design build if you expect to receive extra funding from the federal government. Am I correct in that, Attorney? Our Adam?
Commissioner Aldridge is asking a question to the attorney at this point.
I mean, if you cut through it, and I mean, my points were pretty much on there, right?
Both options are perfectly legal in the bidding standards in the state of Florida. It has been made abundantly clear to me that FEMA discourages design build.
Thank you. And that's all. If you need anything else, Ms. Commissioner Tender, excuse me. I'm ready.
Mayor, if I may.
No, I was under,
I'll come back.
the other information too that was given is we can use our insurance money in any way we want. So I personally didn't think we even had to include or use FEMA monies.
At this point, I think Commissioner Tender has clarified her motion. I understood what she said when I seconded it, because we had been discussing a design build for the municipal buildings. That was part of the discussion. But apparently there are members of the commission who understood it differently. So I believe Commissioner Russell was next, and then Commissioner Perno. I'll come to you. I'm sorry. Go ahead, Commissioner Russell.
Mayor, I just want to start by saying I completely concur with what Commissioner Aldridge said, that I think that this is the wrong route in my personal opinion, but again, I'll abide by whatever this commission decides. That being said, that if there is confusion on this board, you need to give us guidance on how to move forward. Do we call for a new vote to give each one of us a chance to change our vote? Do we make a motion to nullify that other vote and revote? Or do we move forward in the muddy waters that we're in right now? Thank you, Mayor.
Commissioner Perno.
Thank you, Mayor. I was a vote, and my interpretation, and the light went on with me when Mayor, when you spoke and said that we had insurance money and we can get one project carved out and get going. And when Commissioner Tender made the suggestion, I thought, and my feelings were that we can do it cheaper and less than what the architects were saying. And it was for the police department and a hard shell EOC. And that's what moved me. And I thought we were going to pull one project out and we were going to get that going. That's what I voted yes to.
Okay.
So if it meant a lot of other stuff and we get into mitigating things about what we're not going to get funded for by FEMA, my heart and my head that day was thinking that we were going to take one project out and get it going with insurance money and see where we can get going in a faster way and get our city rebuilt in a more efficient way too, I hope. So
Thank you, Commissioner Perno. Is there further discussion from the commission?
Mayor, if I may,
Yes.
I just want to point out to Mr. Albritton, if you hadn't realized it, that sure implies that vote didn't go the way it was supposed to go.
Commissioner Russell, by my saying, is there discussion from the commission? Discussion entitles anybody in this commission to make a motion. It entitles anybody in the commission to do what they would like. This is a discussion. You are a governing board. You are a governing body who makes policy. I'm just the chairperson.
Yes, ma'am. And I'm asking our attorney if he's got any legal guidance for us.
Yes, I think, I think this is contract law, okay? And contracts are written or verbal. In this particular case, the plain language of the motion from Commissioner Tender, which she has confirmed today, was that it was for the police station and then move on from there. The police station, That vote was it was plain language and it was voted on. So if Commissioner Tender wants to say that that's what her vote was for the police station, and then later look at the other things, that means police station. And that was the plain language. That would be what I would anticipate moving forward. That's what I've anticipated moving forward on, not all the other buildings. So I think my advice to the commission is that if they want to move forward with the police station design build, that would be an affirmative vote. That was 3-2. We could do that because that was the plain language of her motion. She said police department. We can move forward with that. The others, the city hall, demo of library, the museum, those things would not be included at this time. That would have to be a separate motion. Even Commissioner Perno said that his understanding was the police department. That was a carve out. That was conforms to my understanding, my memory of the meeting as well. So I think they were just a 3-2 vote to that effect. For the other buildings, I do not think that's in case the fact. I would suggest at this point is let's have a court reporter dictate. It won't be very inexpensive because it's just one agenda item, a few $100s. Have a court reporter dictate it. If there is any other confusion, but based off what I've heard is Commissioner Tender said that although she may, and I'm going to paraphrase, she may have implied the other buildings, she specifically said police department, and that was my understanding as well. What she may do or not do in the future, or what this commission may or may not do in the future is not specific enough. But I do think there was a meeting of the minds as to the police department, which you need and to form a contract or an agreement between two parties.
Is there other discussion from the commission on this item? We do.
Mayor,
Go ahead, Commissioner Tender.
I do know that I did say start with the police department because they were also saying everything could move more quickly. I said, start with the police department and then we would go from there. So if it would help clear anybody's concern, that's exactly what I would say. I'd still say the same thing. Let's design, build the police department. And after we have done that and gotten bids for that and everything that would have to occur, then we can take on the rest of the buildings.
And to me, Mayor, that conforms with my memory of the vote completely.
So now do you still advise that we go forward with the court reporter, or do you advise that we continue on the path that we were on, Mr. Albritton? Or is that the wrong question to ask you? I've got people in the public who are wanting to speak, so I want to give them that opportunity.
Oh, I certainly understand they do. That being said, Mayor, does your memory of your second conform to with what Commissioner Tender just said moments ago, which that it was we would move forward with the police department and thereafter look at the other buildings that need to be constructed?
Yes.
Commissioner Perno, does that conform to your memory of what happened?
It was for the police department and a carve out. I didn't hear go forward, but we're going to go forward. So,
okay. To me, there is a consensus between the 3 yes voters as to the affirmative vote for the police department, nothing else at this point. So if there's anything else as far as the reconstruction of the city that needs to be addressed or go forward, that would have to be done with a notice meeting, separate vote. But when I'm looking at Mayor and trying to say City Manager Gaynor and I move forward and hopefully solicit for someone that is allowed by law to build or construct the design criteria package for the design build team, the scope is going to be a police department, whatever that may be. That's
and
where we're
a
going to
hard shell EOC. That's what we said.
Yep.
I would think anything ancillary to police department operations would be appropriate. Yes. But that's my understanding. So if the 3 yes votes on here think that is wrong, then we certainly would need to readdress it.
I'm in concurrence with Commissioner Perno when he said the EOC was included with that, whether within that police department, because that certainly was part of what I discussed before the motion was ever made, the importance of our police being safe and having that police department hardened and an EOC in the event of another catastrophic event. So.
And technically, a police department can be an EOC, and EOC is just a name and a certain structural design. So I think that can be at least an option discussed in negotiation, because, and I've tried to lay it out in my letter, design build, you're not going to get a price. You're going not up front. not up front. You're going to pick based off of a set criteria of their abilities and then negotiate with them. So part of that negotiation can be, how do you want to harden a police department and ancillary items that may be needed with the police department? I would agree with that 100%. I could not substantiate any of the other buildings, and that doesn't sound like that's an issue at this point. To me, from what I'm hearing, there is no more confusion, and we will go forward with the
Solicitation.
to getting it generated by the appropriate entity as set forth in the statutes, based off of the police department and ancillary buildings that may be necessary for the conduction of the police department.
Thank you, sir. Is there any further discussion from the commission before I give the public an opportunity to speak?
Yes, Mayor, if I may. Just one more point of clarification. So we're going to move forward, and the commission voted, and I'll accept the decision. But that motion didn't stop the design bid build for the rec park or the ancillary buildings. So does the city move forward with that? So where do we stand?
I have no direction as to any of that, so I couldn't tell you.
And unless there would be a more discussion later that would do that. But right now, it's still the way it was, is my understanding. That's my understanding, Commissioner Perno. Is there any public comment on this item? Mr. Finch.
You know, I James Finch, 410 East 2nd Street, Lynn Haven. I brought the proposal up here, and the proposal was to build the police department, build an EOC on the same property, a separate building where you could use it for a multitask building, where the fire department or the police department would have 3,000 foot to be able to go in there and train. So you wouldn't have to have an 18,000 foot police department, maybe a 14,000 foot police department, but you would have a 6,000 or 8,000 square foot EOC that you could put the kitchen. The way the engineers and architects had it designed, they had a $400,000 kitchen in the police department. I thought that should have been in an EOC in a separate building. Those were the two buildings I proposed, and I proposed the museum over here. I would either put a roof on it or tear it down, and I would build over here by the senior citizens a 3,000 square foot library that adjoins with them. That was the motion, or not motion, that's what I offered. But I also said, I don't want to do that if y'all don't open up and let everybody have a chance in it, because I don't want to say, well, James come up here and got this whole damn. Every time I come up here with a deal with y'all, I have a hell of a time getting it across. You know, I'm glad y'all took the fireworks money. And, but Mr. Pat, he voted on it. You know, he understood the EOC. And if you want to do, those other two buildings was minor, but if you're going to take the time that y'all take, and it's been 2 years come October, and there's nothing been built at all. But if you want to preserve that city hall, we can put a roof on it, or we can tear it down, and you can put the city hall in the middle of that when you design it, if you want to design it. But what was on the agenda was the municipal facilities. So I think that's where everybody got mixed up, and the attorney thought maybe y'all couldn't read. And so he wants to get somebody to type it out so y'all can read, which is kind of embarrassing, I think. I can read and I can hear. And I heard what she said. I also heard what he said, Brian. He said, if y'all vote for this, I only got one vote, but whatever y'all do, I'm okay with it. But evidently he's not okay with it. Mr. Russell's not okay with it. They were on the two descending. I don't want to do it if I've not got a best deal for the city. But I don't want to see the city mess this money away the way it's going. The architects come to see me last Monday or Tuesday, come to have lunch and says, hey, well, we can help you with that. He said, we were told by the city to put all this stuff in. I said, well, they didn't tell you about any budgets or nothing. They said, no, they come to see me and says, we can do it a lot cheaper. I know damn well they can do it cheaper if they're going to come to see me, because I seen the $4 million that they wanted to charge the city with all of them combined. And that's the only reason I was here. And if y'all want to do that, but the motion was, and it passed 3-2. If y'all want to throw it out and go your way, you'll be in these trailers another 2 years, paying rent off. You'll be paid 4 years on these trailers. So let's build something and get the city the best deal. I don't necessarily have to do the deal, but you're going about it the wrong way. The school board, I think they awarded 2 or 3 buildings today on a design deal. It's the fastest way you can do it. What Ms. Tender understood was there was a guaranteed maximum price. When they award this thing design bill, I sat down with y'all, we get the whole thing, get to 60% drawings. I pay for the money. Or y'all can pay a siphon like some of them does, say, we'll give you $100,000 toward the design. They do that sometime. But I pay all the money, and if I don't get it, I eat it. The city's not out nothing in architects. They go right up to when I sit down, draw out, everybody agrees on it, signs off on it, then they get a guaranteed maximum price, period. No change orders, no nothing. That's the way the school board does it. They try and build everything within a year. We 2 years building nothing. So, I mean, that was the motion I made. Could you hear me, Ms. Tender?
Yes, sir.
That was one motion. It was an EOC, which was a multiple task. And you can make the city hall a little smaller. Then you might want to do the meetings there. You put your voting precinct there. You put your training there. You put anything problem there. You build it. You harden the EOC and build the everything else to the new standard buildings, because the new buildings didn't have that big a problem.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Is there anyone else from the public who'd like to speak? Apparently not. So at this point in time, my understanding is that Mr. Albritton and the city manager are going to continue on the path that they were on as far as the solicitation or finding an engineering firm willing to write that solicitation. Is that my understanding, Mr. Albritton, or is there something different that I'm not getting?
To me, it appears there's a consensus on the commission as to the motion, and Ms. Gaynor and I will move forward.
Thank you so much.
And we will not need a court reporter to dictate.
Thank you so much, sir. At this time, is there any public commentary? Well, actually, City Attorney, did you have anything else to report? That was a long report.
I think that's enough for today.
Thank you so much, Mr. Albritton. Moving on to item number 7, which is public commentary. I would invite anybody from the public who would like to speak on any item tonight, whether it's on the agenda or not. This is your opportunity. This lady right here, go ahead.
I'd like to, Donald Walsh, 310 Montana Avenue. I'd like to elaborate on the cars going through Kinsall Park. I'd also like to bring to your attention the dog park. There's no hours on it. They are there at 4:30 in the morning with their dogs barking. I have no privacy in my backyard anymore.
Okay.
It's wide open. I mean, I don't know, I wasn't here when you made this dog park, but you had no consideration for people whose property who back up to it. We have no privacy anymore. I know all the bag dogs' names because I hear them all the time. You know, it's just, and they're there at 4:30 in the morning and they don't leave. They're not respecting, I know the park is open from sunrise to sunset, but the splash pad has hours of operation. I think there needs to be a lock on there or listed hours or something that we can have our privacy back and we can have our peace and quiet back.
Possibly a gate, or
Commissioner Perno?
possibly a gate of just.
Isn't there a gate on there?
There's
Is there-
already a
is there
gate.
lot for access?
Yeah.
Wow.
May I, and I could ask a question of staff, have we considered a sign with hours posted on?
Mayor, we can surely do that. We can just put there, instead of from dusk to dawn, we can put those hours on there.
But that's the problem. They're there at 4:30, 5:30 in the morning with their dogs barking.
We'll actually put some hours on there.
Yeah,
Okay.
like 8 o'clock.
Yeah.
You gotta get them dogs walking before,
Commissioner Perno, did you have something?
just, you gotta get your dog, sometimes they gotta get their dogs exercise before they go into work and stuff.
That's right.
It's one
But
of
that
those
is-
things.
That's a nuisance to me because
Yeah.
their dogs are barking and, you know.
Miss Walsh, I would,
Yes.
I would say thank you for bringing this to the commission's
Okay.
attention, and we'll let staff have discussion and see what they can come up with to alleviate the problem. And then if you don't see some relief, if you would not mind to bring that back to our attention again.
Thank you.
Thank you. Is there anyone else? Mr. Finch?
Can you give me a plan for my phone?
I got two things, you know, the deal, some good, some bad, you know, whatever, but
It's not gonna get.
I'm hearing,
Oh,
Commissioner Tender, I believe your microphone is turned on.
sorry.
Thank you. Those of you that are just joining us, Commissioner Tender is joining us by phone tonight. So go ahead, Mr. Finch.
I was the successful contractor on fixing the park at Porter Park. And it had several things to do on it. And one of them was build the bathroom down there. And the bathroom was drawn up and it was small. It had no air conditioning. It had 2 toilets and it was pretty bad and it's hot and all that. And I said, I'm not going to build it that way. I'm going to add 30% to it. I'm going to air condition it both sides. I'm going to put tile in it. I'm going to put extra bathrooms in it. I'm going to put the mirrors in it and I'm going to pay for it. But I'd like to get the write-off from y'all. I would like to get the cost, bring it to Vicky, and it's $40,000 or $50,000 that I put in there. But I didn't think that nobody wanted to get in those bathrooms in the 4th of July with no air conditioning, no fans, no anything. So I spent the money. I got with Vicky. Vicky was able to get $20,000 out of some insurance so we could tile it and put the mirrors. We put 3 bathrooms in the women instead of the 2 and put 2 or 3 sinks instead of 2. We made it really nice. The bathrooms are nice. And I would like to take that, take it to the city and get the write-off for it.
Okay.
And I did that free. So if you don't want it, you got it. So it don't matter. And there's one other thing. I've put in to build 50 apartments by Kane Griffin Park. Why I was waiting to get my title insurance from the people I was buying it from because they had, a lien on it with the IRS. Well, the IRS was shut down, and then when we finally found out it wasn't a big $8,000 or $9,000, but I couldn't get title insurance. So we had to go to Ohio up there because that's where they were doing the real estate for the IRS. But they were all out working at the house and all that. So it took 2 or 3 months. So in between that time and now, the D.R. Horton, which is one of the biggest house builders in America, that's who I was developing the property for. They're slow playing on closing on that. I went by the park to look at it because my son-in-law was building the park down there. And I said, there's not enough parking here. It's really, really bad for parking. I've got that 5 acres right across from there. If y'all interested in it and you want to talk about it, it's available for a little while, or I could wait. D.R. Horton built those 50 apartments there. They were going to sell those apartments for $180,000 or $90,000. And, I thought they'd sell real fast. Well, some of them decided in California or wherever they're from, decided they would rent them. And they come up with $1,800 a month. And I said, that's not an $1,800 a month thing, or Lynn Haven's not got $1,800. So in the meantime, they have got a contract on selling those to somebody that wants to rent them, and they get the money. They have not closed on my piece of property next door, which is 5 acres by the park, and it's the only vacant park around there. If y'all want to talk about it, I'll talk about it. But if you think it's too good a deal, just tell me no.
Thank you. Mrs. Gaynor, if you could make a note for the next meeting's agenda about the write-off request that was asked for Porter Park, and then also for a discussion about parking for Kane Griffin, if we're interested. Thank you so much. Is there other public commentary? Yes, ma'am.
Do we wait until you bring it up or come up now?
You can do it either way you prefer.
Okay.
You can talk about it now if you'd like, or you can wait until we bring it up on the agenda.
Wait, okay, they're gonna wait till we're here for 15.
Okay, we'll let you know. Thank you, ma'am. Are there other people here who would like to speak on other topics? Any topic? Yes, sir. That's okay.
My name is Terrence Calhoun, 905 Colorado Avenue. Actually came before the board.
One
a year
moment,
ago.
please. We're still having some interference. Is that? Thank you. Go ahead.
Anyway,
Go ahead.
petitioned the commission maybe a year ago on this matter too. So I'm a 15-year vet. Moved to Lynn Haven, PCS here with my family, my wife, my kids, and just recently got out of the military. And I've been tattooing for 11 years.
Thank you for your service, by the way.
So I wanted to explore my passion in the art of tattooing. So I've been looking for, commercial leases here and there at Panama City. So we've been petitioning actually Panama City as well to change some of the ordinances because they were kind of outdated. Panama City actually took out schools and parks out of their ordinance and are currently it's in work. They're going to remove the churches as well. But anyway, I found a property here in Lynn Haven. I'd like to stay in Lynn Haven. I did find a property, but right now the ordinance says they're not permitted within 2,500 feet of a school, which is a half a mile almost, which is very, very, very far. Also off the corridor, 1,000 feet. So what I'd like to suggest is a change in the ordinance. I mean, Panama City Commission also agreed that, you know, the stigma attached to tattoo shops just it's not valid anymore. And it's very restrictive when it comes to the ordinance, opening up that kind of business. Lynn Haven actually has body altering businesses section with sexually oriented business, which is not the case at all. Most parlors I've ever worked in have been nothing but professional. Now, I can't speak on how it used to be, 20 years ago, I have no idea. But now it is a profession, a very legitimate tax-paying business. So I guess, so what I would like to suggest is, as far as the corridor goes, maybe a frontage. If it can't face the front of the frontage on the corridor 77, and maybe limiting that or even removing from schools. I don't even know really why that's there anyway. It's not like, it's legal to tattoo children. So that's just a suggestion that I have, and I just wanted to bring that to the board.
We thank you
So
for coming.
thank you.
Thank you so much, and thank you for speaking. Anyone else?
Mayor?
I think that brings us to the end of public commentary. I didn't leave anyone out, right? Okay. The consent agenda, just one item, approval of the minutes for June 23rd. Is there a motion for approval?
So moved.
Second.
There's been a motion and a second for approval of these minutes. Any discussion, deletion, or additions? There appear to be none. Mrs. Gaynor, would you please call the roll?
Commissioner Russell,
Yes.
Commissioner Parno,
Yes.
Commissioner Aldridge,
Yes.
Commissioner Tender,
Yes.
Oh, she's muted.
Commissioner,
Yes.
Mayor Anderson.
Yes, so the minutes stand approved. There is no old business this evening. New business, item 9, discussion and possible approval of the city employee benefit program. Mrs. Gaynor, did you have some comments of interest?
Yeah, yes, ma'am. I'm going to ask Owen Wingate to come forward, as we met a couple of weeks ago to talk about our city employee benefits, and ask him to speak on what we have this year.
Perfect. Thank you very much. My name is Owen Wingate. I'm the president of Aventress, and we're happy to be here tonight.
Happy to have you, Mr.
And
Wingate.
Thank you very much. You all had, through the staff's efforts of really kind of promoting some, really how to use the insurance plans and whatnot. You all had a very favorable renewal this year. So we were able to negotiate the Florida Blue plan down to a flat increase for the next plan year. So we've made a couple of options in the stuff that you've gotten to where we could possibly, we got a little bit of 15% of COVID discount for the month of July. And so we kind of put some alternates together that could give you guys a net zero increase, basically giving that money back to the employees through lowering their payroll deductions as you move forward into the next plan year. We only lowered it on the one plan that has the better claims experience, because the other plan actually has higher claims experience. So the majority of the people are on the plan that we kind of made some alternates for. Gave you two options, really just to kind of look at, and to basically, one of them was to lower the dependent coverage to where it would be a little bit more affordable. That's something that the city manager brought up. That's one of the complaints that they get, is the dependent coverage is too expensive. And then the other is to lower the employee rate and the dependent coverage. So y'all have really done a good job over the last couple of years to lower those and continue to keep things on the lowest possible scale. So I think everybody's excited about it.
Thank you, sir.
And all the rest of the benefits stayed the same. So really, that's the only alternate. There was the A and B for you guys to make
Sure.
a determination on.
Thank you. Thank you for being here. Are there any questions that the commission has for Mr. Wingate? Commissioner Perno?
Sir, if I can ask, you said a flat increase. What was that flat increase percentage or?
So zero.
Zero.
Basically, we're going to pay the same thing next year as we paid this year. So really,
Okay, so there's no increase.
there would be no increase.
Okay.
So that with the stuff I was talking about the employees' payroll deductions, there would be a tiny net increase because we're getting about a $20,000 credit from the Florida Blue for July.
Okay.
And it was about 21,000 if you guys were to lower the deductions for the employees for the year.
Okay,
So about $1,000 net increase.
thank you.
Are there other questions or comments from the commission? Any from the public or employees who are here? There appear to be none. Mrs. Gaynor, did you have any other comments you wanted to make?
Yes, Mayor, we did look at some of the employees, and we felt like that many of the employees, they are taking their insurance, but in terms of the spouse and the children, it is a little bit more expensive. And so we are recommending that that we go with funding option one, so that will help the employees that have the spouse and the children care.
Thank you. Go ahead, Commissioner
Mayor, if I
Russell.
would, I just wanted to tell HR, Kelly Bassini, thank you for all the questions. I had a number of questions, and she was able to answer all of them. So I'm willing and happy to make a motion that we accept this as the city manager is requesting.
I'll second that motion.
There's been a motion and a second. Is there any further questions or discussions from the board?
Mayor, I just also like to, before we go on, to recognize Ashley Turco, that's in the back. She is actually our rep that many of the employees can call any time of the day. She will answer their questions. She is readily available. And then we have Kelly, that is also, they are all from Jacksonville, came up just to be with us today and meet with us and are readily available. They have great customer service and care for employees. So I just wanted to do that.
Thank you so much. I appreciate you all very much.
We appreciate y'all.
Thank you. Is there a motion for approval of the city employee benefit program?
I'm sorry, Mayor, I probably messed you up. There is already a motion in a second.
Did I miss that? Okay,
Yes,
I'm
ma'am.
sorry.
I probably messed you up.
Okay, there has been a motion and a second already. I do apologize. Is there any further discussion? Mrs. Gaynor, would you please call the roll?
Commissioner Russell,
Yes.
Commissioner Parno,
Yes.
Commissioner Aldrich,
Yes.
Commissioner Tender,
Yes.
Mayor Anderson.
Yes, so it stands approved.
Thank
And
you.
thank you very much for your work on this. Thank you all for traveling over to be with us, and we appreciate you
very
as
much.
always.
We'll
Thank
get
you
it
so
done.
much.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you. Moving on to item number 10, discussion and possible approval of the recommended award for the lift station fencing improvements bid to GAC contractors. And this report is from Chris Forehand of Panhandle Engineering. Good evening.
Good evening, Mayor and Commissioners.
Good evening.
Chris Forehand with Panhandle Engineering. As you know, we recently bid out all of the fencing for the city facilities, and we received 4 bids. They were kind of a large range, but the lowest bidder was Bay County Fence LLC, $580,300. However, they did not provide a bid bond, which was required as part of the bid document, so they're considered non-responsive. So we do recommend awarding to GAC for $590,750.38. I'll be happy to answer any questions.
Thank you. Are there questions for Mr. Forehand?
Mayor, if I may.
Go ahead, Commissioner Russell.
Chris, item H has a $50,000 allowance. That'll only be billed if additional work is required.
Correct.
So the potential money we would be paying would be $540 instead of $590.
Yes, that's
Okay.
correct.
That's what I
correct.
understood. I just wanted to clarify.
And
Thank you.
also too, about half of this money will be funded by the SRF grant program, which is 75% grant. It was for the lift stations and for the water plants, reuse site, and for the wastewater plant.
Thank you.
Are there other comments or questions from the commission? Is there a motion?
I made the motion. Yes, I made the motion to approve the award to GAC contractors for the lift station fencing improvement bid.
I'll second that motion.
There's been a motion and a second, and there's already been discussion from the board. Are there any comments or discussion from the public? There appears to be none. Mrs. Gaynor, would you call the roll, please?
Commissioner Aldrich,
Yes.
Commissioner Parno,
Yes.
Commissioner Russell,
Yes.
Commissioner Tender,
No.
Mayor Anderson.
Yes. Stands approved. Moving to item number 11, this is a quasi-judicial public hearing, and so I will defer to our attorney, Mr. Albritton, to swear in any of those necessary to swear in.
Yes, Mayor. And before I get started with the swearing in, I'd ask the commission to disclose any ex parte communication. Start with Commissioner Perna.
I believe I've met with the city engineer on this is the Andrews.
An ex parte would be outside of city staff. So anybody outside of city staff, which you've communicated about, specifically the applicant or somebody that has an interest in it, not including the city.
Other than talking to residents and whatnot.
Okay.
That's it.
Commissioner Aldridge?
Yes, I have had a meeting with Panhandle Engineering to just answer some questions that I had pertaining to some of the floodwater and drainage issues.
Commissioner Anderson?
I have had,
Mayor Anderson.
that's okay. I have had some discussions with Mr. Slanina with Panhandle, just with some questions. And I also had a discussion with Mr. Finch regarding something to do with his culvert and draining that had something to do with it, whether it goes forward or not. So those are the discussions I've had.
Commissioner Russell?
Yes, I've also had discussions with Jim Slanino with Panhandle Engineering as well as the county in reference to the roads and everything around the subdivision.
Commissioner Tender?
I have not.
Okay. And if you're here to give testimony as it relates to number 11, would you please stand and raise your right hand? Do you swear or affirm that the testimony you're about to give will be the truth, whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God? Okay. And one of those being sworn in is city staff member Richard. She will continue to be sworn in. If other members, as you come up, if you've been sworn in, if you would just acknowledge that when you get to the microphone, so we'll have a record reflection saying, yes, I've been sworn in previously. Thank you.
So item number 11 is discussion and possible approval of Andrews Plantation Phase 2 preliminary plat. And that would, I would defer now to Amanda Richard, who is the Director of Planning for the City of Lynn Haven. Go ahead,
Thank
please.
you, Mayor. The applicant owner has requested the approval of the preliminary plat for the single-family subdivision known as Andrews Plantation Phase 2, a residential development consisting of 84 homes on the 33.24-acre vacant property located on the west side of Highway 389, 610 feet south of Caithness Lane, across the road from Andrews Plantation Phase 1, parcel number 11537-000-000 and 11536-000-000. The request for the approval of the preliminary plat has been reviewed in accordance with city and state requirements and has been found to be in compliance. The stormwater facilities, homeowners associations and common areas will be privately maintained. This plat went before the Planning Commission on June the 1st, 2020, who recommended unanimous approval.
Thank you so much. Are there questions or discussion from the commission? Is there a motion from the commission?
Mayor, this has been one of those situations to where, there's been a lot of emotion involved. But I can't see a reason to not approve this. So I make the motion to approve the Andrews Plantation Phase 2 preliminary plat.
Mayor, I'll second that motion.
So there's been a motion and a second. Is there further discussion from the commission? Is there discussion from the public? Yes, sir.
Jameson Work. I'm on 2002 Pentland Road in Moat Highlands. And I went to the special meeting we had where we discussed the whole Andrews Plantation. And I went in there, of course, a lot of residents had concerns, including myself. And to be honest with you, after I saw the presentation they had, I felt worse than when I went in there. And I feel like I understand that this is going to bring revenue to Lynn Haven, and I know that's important. But I feel like there's a lot of risk involved with this development. And I think the risk outweigh the reward. And as you know, there's been a lot of problems in flooding that area. And I just think that this is going to cause more problems. And we discussed that. And I wish there was more people here tonight to testify, but I've talked to some of the people in the neighborhood, and they feel like they're not being heard. They feel like they're being ignored and that the revenue is outweighing the risk. And this is going to cause safety and security concerns. And I'm concerned. I was retired military, and when we came here, we wanted to find our final place to stay. And everyone said, hey, go to Lynn Haven, it's a great place to stay. And I'm worried that if this goes through, I'm going to regret my decision. And so my question to you, and then you don't have to answer me, of course, I would say, ask yourself. I know Commissioner Russell and Commissioner Tyndall, I think your guys' term's up in 2021, correct? However, Commissioner Purnell, Commissioner Aldridge, and Mayor Anderson, all up in 2023, I believe, right? So this is probably going to be finished by the time your term is done. And there's a good chance something will happen, such as a flood. So my question to you that I would ask you to ask yourself, if something happens, are you willing to answer the mail on that? Because I'm going to tell you, if something happens, I can be a pretty persistent person. I'm going to come to you and say, remember when I came up here and talked to you about that? So that's the question I would ask you. And like I said, I wish there was more people here, but they feel like they're being ignored. Or I shouldn't say ignored. They feel like their concerns are not being listened to. And I just wanted to come up here and tell you that, because I feel like if I didn't come in here and say something and then something happened later, I should have came in here and said something. So I just wanted to look all you in the eye and explain that and let you understand my position and my shoes. And I keep hearing people that they care, but I'm starting to wonder that myself. So I ask, please take that into consideration.
Thank you, sir. Are there others who'd like to comment? Yes, sir.
My name is Jesse Nelson, resident at 2306 Andrews Road, Lynn Haven. That's one of my neighbors there, and myself, like him, I'm just coming to express the sentiments from the neighborhood. Many of them are not here because they've sort of given up morale and thinking that it's sort of a hopeless effort. But just wanted to say, I know that you all are considering what's best for the city. Just ask that as you move forward in making your decisions, that is already a congested area. It's already tough to turn in at Moat Highlands there off the main strip. And so that's one of the major concerns is it going to cause more congestion there, which could then lead to more accidents, which already happened further up right above that main entrance there. And so that would be one of my expressions of concerns, in addition to the overflow of the water into our neighborhood, which is a flood area. Before I'm late tonight because my son was doing his little car in the backyard, his little go-kart, and it was still just holding all the water there because it is a sort of a low land. And I'm not in the flood zone. My house is not in the flood zone. But however, water does sit up in that area. And so that's one of the big concerns for all of us, is how is that water going to flow over into our neighborhood, as well as the congestion of the traffic that would be there to cause more of a strain and stress and possibly more accidents in that area.
Thank you, sir. Are there others? Yes, sir.
Mayor? Oh, go ahead.
Evening, Jim Sloaney, Panhandle Engineering, great distance. The property zoned R1. They're entitled to build single family. The property is separated from the old part of Moat Highlands, which I agree has substandard drainage. It was developed in times before the ERP and the code that we have right now. So I understand their problem, but that's not what this project is. This project is miles ahead in its stormwater management versus the problems they have there. They can't drain their backyards and things like this. I've been over there quite a bit. From a traffic perspective, we're putting our own connection to East Avenue with turn lanes. It's going to be a much more attractive location than going out Dundee. So I think we're doing something over and above what the city's code is. We're complying with the city's code, and we've got the both the state and your reviewing engineer's approval on the stormwater plan. And I'd be glad to answer any questions.
Other questions? Go ahead, Commissioner Purnell.
Question for the residents of Moat Highlands: Are we still looking at, or are we close to getting a back entrance for them? We're looking.
My understanding is that task order was approved and that we are evaluating a 24th Street to 26th Street connection. 24th Street across connection, yes.
Mayor, if I may.
Commissioner Russell?
I talked to the city engineer on that a couple of days ago because I wanted to know where the feasibility study is at. And he projects within the next probably 2 to 3 weeks, we'll have a feasibility study back telling us what the best route to go is.
Okay.
And also as far as traffic, I'm sorry, Mayor.
No, go
As far
ahead,
as
please.
traffic, as far as traffic is concerned, you'll also notice on the next agenda item, I've got the
Yeah.
red light back on there again for discussion.
Yeah, we need to push that.
Thank you, Mayor.
One more question to Mr. Sling is, I'm no genius when it comes to engineering and laying out stormwater, and your plan says that you'll put no more water into the creek, into McCain Creek than is already flowing.
Correct. Attenuation is one of the criteria that the city's code has. It says the natural conditions of the ground running off, you're allowed to match that. But anytime we put in a road, roofs, sidewalks, we increase the volume and the speed of the water. We're required to build basins, dry basins, or wet basins, to store it like a bathtub and have it stage up. And then the discharge structure discharges only at the rate the natural ground would be. Far better than the previous Mowat Highlands projects, which were done with little to no attenuation. And that's just because the codes weren't there.
And what presently is there is what's flooding the properties right now.
It's everything up there should have been taller. I mean, the houses should have met the new code, which is 18 inches above the road. The roads probably should have had better. Our new code requires culverted, curb and guttered roads. None of that's out there. It's just the last generation, nice development, but a last generation design in the rules. I guess we all learn from those, but stormwater has been a big problem in Florida, and the state has upgraded its requirements, and we piggyback a lot off of what the state keeps up.
One more thing, there's I know they're looking at a retrofit where the creek crosses Dundee, or I believe it's Dundee, and that seems to flood regularly for them. Is there any way to speed up a process to fortify the road where they can get water under there and get that problem out of the way too for the residents?
I would speak to that in that one of my major, those of you who are new to the commission, one of the major flag bearers that I've done since I've been mayor is the flooding condition, not only in Mowat Highlands, but all over Lynn Haven. And from generation to generation, certain things have been ignored. And there are stormwater easements all over Lynn Haven which aren't even identified on our maps and which are not kept up. And there are so many things that we need to do to improve that. So I think that our charge as commission, we don't penalize the new developments that are coming in, which will benefit Lynn Haven, which are putting in premium and state-of-the-art drainage systems. What we do is we face our responsibilities to take care of those residents, like some of those who've spoken this evening, who came here to retire and who came here to make this their homes. And let's make sure that we've done everything within our power to upgrade the drainage in their neighborhoods to make sure that they live the best lives possible. And I think that there's probably not a member of this commission that wouldn't feel that way. But again, you can feel that way and not act that way. So as we have opportunity to fund these projects, we all need to be of one accord, and not only Mowat Highlands, but other areas of this city that drain and need our help.
Thank you, Mayor.
That's what I would say.
Mayor, that was well said.
That was well said.
Thank you. Mr. Salina? Thank you very much.
My only reason for bringing that up, Mayor, was that those are the points that stick out in my mind that from our meetings that, we want them to know, those residents to know that we're hearing what they're saying. We're taking action, So.
Yes, sir, I will allow it. This is a public hearing. Generally, there's 3 minutes allowed per person, but this is a very passionate issue, and I want everyone to have a chance to say what you need to say, sir.
So if I understand you correctly, you say that subdivision is not going to add any more water flow to that creek than Mowat Highlands.
What is going there from the wooded area right now? Yes, sir.
Okay, I'll take your word for it.
And the city engineer that reviewed our work.
And I'll take your word for it.
Is there anyone else who would like, this is a public hearing, so it's a little more informal. Is there anyone else who would like to speak this evening on this matter? Haven't left anybody out, Chief, that was waiting outside or anything. Thank you very much. We've had a motion and a second, correct? Is there any further discussion from the board? Any questions? Mrs. Gaynor, would you please call the roll?
Commissioner Aldridge,
Yes.
Commissioner Russell,
Yes.
Commissioner Parno,
Yes.
Commissioner Tender.
Double quorum. We still have a quorum.
I understand, but I'd like every commissioner to have that opportunity. Is she gone for good, or is this just a momentary? Okay. I'm just going to give it a few seconds to see if we can give her that opportunity. Everybody take a breath.
Playing the sound to Jeopardy.
Mr. Albritton, would it be out of legality or decorum if Mrs. Gaynor, the city manager, called Commissioner Tender to see if she had heard the vote and was able to vote by phone?
No, ma'am, there's no set procedures for appearing by phone other than trying to make it as convenient and
Thank you.
inclusive for the public.
Mrs. Gaynor, would you please call Mrs. Commissioner Tender? Thank you.
Phone a friend.
That's right.
I guess one of your legs.
If we may remain in order, gentlemen, thank you.
Yeah, can you put me on your phone so I can at least vote?
Yes, ma'am, you are on my phone.
Commissioner Tender, were you
Okay,
able
thank
to?
you.
Commissioner Tender, were you able to hear all of the discussion?
I just missed the last part of it, but I did have a resident from that area text me with her concerns as well. And as far as the two gentlemen previously said that they just felt defeated, she texted saying that they weren't coming because they also felt defeated. And I just wanted everybody to know that.
Commissioner Tender, we had finished discussion and we'd actually started calling the roll for vote.
Okay.
And we've had Commissioner Russell, Commissioner Perno, and Commissioner Aldridge have all voted affirmatively. I have not yet cast my vote, as I always am the last vote. Is there any other information that you need before you cast a vote?
No, ma'am.
Okay.
No, I'm going to vote.
Okay, go ahead then, Commissioner Tender.
My vote is no.
Okay, Commissioner Tender voted no.
And Mayor Anderson.
Yes. And so that vote is 4-1, and that does pass for the Plantation 2 preliminary plat, which was unanimously approved by Lynn Haven's Planning Commission as well. So we'll move on then to the next quasi-judicial public hearing, which is a discussion and possible approval of Andrews Plantation Phase 2 development order. And Mr. Albritton, do we need a swearing in for this item since it's the same, or is it's a little differentiation, so we do?
Only those that plan to give testimony that did not previously have the opportunity to be sworn in would need to be resworn.
Is there anyone who's going to speak that was not sworn in before? Apparently not. May I continue then, Mr. Albritton?
Yes, and Ms.
Thank you.
Richard has previously been sworn.
Ms. Richard, who is the director of the City of Lynn Haven's Planning Department, would you please go ahead with your presentation?
Yes, Mayor. This is the development order for the single-family subdivision known as Andrews Plantation Phase 2, a residential development consisting of 84 homes on a 33.24-acre vacant parcel located on the west side of Highway 389. This development order approval is requested so that the developer can begin construction on the 84 single-family homes and accompanying infrastructure. The development order has been reviewed in accordance with city and state requirements and has been found to be in compliance. The stormwater facilities, homeowner association areas, and common areas will be privately maintained. The application went before the Planning Commission on June 1st, 2020, who recommended unanimous approval. The staff recommends approval with contingencies. And I'm just going to read you the contingencies.
Of course.
So the contingencies are the same as were for the development order for Landing's Landing. And they are that the development order is contingent upon no connections to sewer services or certificate of occupancies being issued until lift station number 31 on Dundee Lane has been upgraded and conditioned upon payment to the city of all applicable impact fees, etc.
Thank you very much. Are there questions for Ms. Richard? Commissioner Tender, are you able to hear by using the phone?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, thank you. Let me know if you're not. Is there a motion? Sorry.
So moved.
Second.
So there is a motion for approval of Andrews Plantation Phase 2, the development order with the contingency mentioned by Ms. Richard regarding the lift station involved in that motion. Is that correct? Well, you just said so moved, so
Yes, ma'am.
okay, thank you so much. Is there any further discussion from the commission? Is there any from the public? There appears to be none. Mrs. Gaynor, would you please call the roll?
Commissioner Russell,
Yes.
Commissioner Aldridge,
Yes.
Commissioner Parno,
Yes.
Commissioner Tender,
No.
Mayor Anderson.
Yes. And so that development order would be approved with that contingency. Moving on to item number 13, discussion and possible approval to request that Bay County place a traffic light at the entrance of Andrews Plantation. Commissioner Russell, do you have a report on that item?
Yes, ma'am. Since with the approval of items 11 and 12, at the last commission meeting, we had a lot of discussion about traffic in Mowat Highlands. And so much so that, we decided to have the traffic study done to see if we can connect Pentland on through to 26th Street via 24th Street. I would also like the commission to consider having the county look at putting a red light in where the two Andrews 1 and Andrews 2 meet. I'm sure y'all are aware that Mowat Highlands will connect through Andrews Plantation 2. So this would give them an access to a red light to be able to get out, because I've heard through numerous residents that they have problems with Dundee. So I think this will help alleviate a lot of that traffic concern coming on at 389 out of Mowat Highlands. So I'd like the commission to consider that. And I don't want to make a motion until after the discussion, if that's all right, Mayor, or if you.
It's actually
prefer.
better to have a motion for
Okay,
discussion. I'm
and I'd
sorry.
like to make a motion that we ask the county to do a traffic study to determine if we can have a red light installed at that location.
Is there a second?
I'll second that motion.
So there's been a motion and a second. Is there discussion or questions for Commissioner Russell?
Mayor, if I may.
Go ahead, Commissioner Tender.
I just want to verify. I thought I just heard Mr. Salinas say with turn lights. Is he talking, lights like what we're going to ask for, or have they already got that permission?
Commissioner Tender, he was speaking of turn lanes, not traffic signals, just the turn lanes.
Oh,
Okay.
okay. I thought he said turn lights.
Okay.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome. Any further discussion? Commissioner
Yeah,
Aldridge?
I agree with Commissioner Parno. Commissioner Russell. I think it's important that we look at this because as the population grows down here, even though East Avenue right now has always been kind of a backcountry road where everybody goes real fast up and down in the past, it's going to wind up being the middle of a residential area of downtown Lynn Haven in the next 10 years. So I definitely think a study is warranted under these circumstances.
Thank you. Any further discussion? Any from the public? There appears to be none. Mrs. Gaynor, please call the roll.
Commissioner Russell,
Yes.
Commissioner Parno,
Yes.
Commissioner Aldridge,
Yes.
Commissioner Tender,
Yes.
Mayor Anderson.
Yes, so it stands approved. Thank you for that work on that, Commissioner Russell.
Yes, ma'am.
Item number 14, again, is a quasi-judicial public hearing. It's discussion and possible approval of the development order application for McDaddy RV Storage on Aberdeen Parkway. And again, we have a report from Amanda Richard, Director of Planning. Thank you so much.
Mayor, I would ask, since this is a quasi judicial public hearing, if the commission would disclose any ex parte communication.
I've had none, sir.
I've had none.
I've had none.
Commissioner Tender,
I've had none.
okay, thank you.
And anybody that wishes to provide testimony other than Ms. Richard, who was previously sworn, if you wish to provide testimony, please stand so you can be sworn. Seeing none, Ms.
This is a request for development order approval to construct an outdoor RV storage facility on Aberdeen Parkway, parcel number 11526-000-000. The applicant is requesting a development order for this 2.88 acre vacant property. The property has a future land use map designation of industrial. Therefore, an outdoor storage facility is an allowable use. The proposed facility will have up to 34 vehicle spaces for boats, RVs, trailers, campers, etc. Utilities will be provided for an on-site wastewater pump-out station. The site plans have been reviewed and have been found to be in compliance with the City of Lynn Haven Unified Development Code, technical standards, and Florida state requirements. This item was heard by the Planning Commission on July the 6th, who recommended approval by unanimous vote, and staff recommends approval.
Thank you so much. Is there a motion for approval?
Mayor, if I may make a comment real quick.
Yes.
I'd like to correct myself. Under ex parte communication, I have talked to Chris Forand about this property, but it was in relation to whether he's going to put an ice machine there. I just wanted to correct that. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you. Is there a motion for approval?
So moved.
Second.
There's a motion and a second. Is there any question or discussions for either Ms. Richard or anyone else? There appears to be none from the board. Any from the public? Appears to be none. Mrs. Gaynor, would you please call the roll?
Commissioner Aldridge,
Yes.
Commissioner Russell,
Yes.
Commissioner Perno,
Yes.
Commissioner Tender,
Yes.
Mayor Anderson.
Yes, stands approved. Thank you. Next is item number 15, which is the public hearing. Discussion and possible approval of the transmittal of resolution number 2020-07-332. This is the large-scale future land use map amendment from traditional neighborhood development T&D to mixed use MU for Mill Bayou. Do you have that resolution in front of you, Ms. Richard, or do you have it, City Manager? Okay, Mrs. Gaynor, would you mind reading that resolution for us, and then we'll begin?
Mayor, just briefly,
I'm
if you
sorry.
would, since it's a public hearing, announce the time for the opening of the public.
Yes. This public hearing is beginning at 7:37 p.m. Central Time. Thank you, Mrs. Gaynor.
A resolution of the City of Lynn Haven, Florida, authorizing transmittal to appropriate agencies and an amendment to the comprehensive plan amending the future land use map from City of Lynn Haven traditional neighborhood development to mixed use on property located on Highway 390, parcel number 11344-000-005 and a portion of parcel number 11344-000-000, approximately a total of 57.14 acres.
Thank you. Ms. Richard, would you like to go ahead with your report at this time, please?
Yes, thank you, Mayor. This is a public hearing to receive comments on the transmittal of a proposed future land use map amendment via the required expedited state review process and to receive City Commission approval on the transmittal to the state agencies of the same. The proposed amendment is to amend the future land use map from traditional neighborhood development TND to mixed use MU on property located on Highway 390. The two parcels involved are parcel number 11344-000-005 and a portion of 11344-000-000. The property is over 10 acres in size at approximately 57.14 acres and so must go through the expedited state review process. Florida statutes requires that the draft ordinance and supporting materials be transmitted to various state agencies for their review and comments prior to the City Commission being authorized to adopt the amendment. And before I go on, I just want to say that we also have to send a courtesy information form, and I didn't bring the actual form. So anybody who would like a copy or to be notified by the state of their notice of intent, if after the meeting they would come and put their name and address on this piece of paper, I'll fill it out. I'll put it transfer it onto a courtesy form to send to the state. We already have the ones from the Planning Commission.
Thank you.
So the applicant is requesting a future land use map amendment to change the current land use of the land from traditional neighborhood development to mixed use. T&D allows for commercial development, professional and office uses, single-family and multifamily residential uses, and civic uses. Mixed use also allows for commercial, professional and office uses, single-family and multifamily uses, and civic uses. The difference lies in the ratios required or allowed for each of the uses, and that T&D has additional parcel size requirements, design standards, and is expected to be developed as an integrative whole. In addition to the uses outlined above, in a T&D, there are additional uses that are allowed but are not allowed in mixed use and different construction permissions. This is a public hearing for the City Commission to take public commentary and to decide whether to transmit the requested Comprehensive Future Land Use Map Amendment, ESR 20-02, to the state reviewing agencies. A public hearing on the proposed amendment was held by the Planning Commission at their regular scheduled meeting of July 6, 2020, where the Commission voted by unanimous vote their recommendation that the City Commission transmit the proposed amendment.
Thank you so much. Is there a motion or discussion from the commission?
Mayor, I'd like to make a motion for the purpose of discussion.
Okay.
I'll second.
So there's been a motion for the purpose of discussion regarding the transmittal of Resolution 2020-7-332, and there's been a second. Is there any discussion from the board at this time?
Yes, ma'am.
Go ahead, Commissioner Tender.
Okay, I've received a text message just now, and it reads, hello, my name is Krista Heptig, and I live at 113 Shoreview Drive. This is in regards to rezoning of Mill Bayou. I am concerned and opposed to the rezoning change to mixed use. I do not want to see the apartment complex be put up in across from North Bay Haven School and close to the entrance of Mill Bayou subdivision. This apartment complex will just decrease the value of, or decrease my home's value and increase vehicle traffic in an already congested area. I would rather see more homes comparable to the ones in Mill Bayou subdivision than apartments. Once appropriate infrastructure, more widened roads, supporting the increase in homes is established, please consider a rezoning to a low-density residential zoning and not mixed use. I want to see additions to the area around my home add value to the residents of Mill Bayou subdivision. Thank you for your time and consideration.
Thank you, Commissioner Tender. Did you have any other comments or just reading the resident's comment?
Well, I personally have comments. Yes, ma'am.
Go ahead.
Okay. My biggest concern is the fact that if we turn this into mixed use for phase two, okay, for phase two, does that also pertain to the 57 acres that he's about to sell next to phase two and phase one?
Okay, there's a question posed by Commissioner Tender. Is there anyone who would like to respond to that? Because I don't think there is really a response to that, Commissioner Tender, that I can come up with.
Okay. So here's another question.
I guess based on what's going to happen in the future, I wasn't trying to be trite. I just can't answer a question based on what might happen in the future.
I understand. So this is simply on phase two that we're going to mixed use. This does not include the 57 acres next door.
Mayor, if I could
Is my
just clarify,
understanding?
this has nothing to do with phase two. And this has to do with a specific parcel and a portion of acreage, approximately 50 some acres, 57 acres.
Thank you.
That is all this applies to, not phase two or any other sections of the property.
Thank you for clarification, Mr. Albritton. I didn't do that very well. Commissioner Tender, did you understand Mr. Albritton's comment?
Yes, I did. Yes,
Thank
I did. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
I'd just like to say I'm very concerned about the traffic situation. Are there any means or do we have any way of knowing what this is going to create?
And your question is directed to just the commission in general?
Yeah, I guess so. Anybody that, am I the only one that's concerned about the traffic? The additional traffic, I think, would be horrendous.
I'm actually concerned, Commissioner Tender, about traffic all over the city of Lynn Haven. It doesn't seem that it has gotten any better since Hurricane Michael, which was almost 2 years ago. I feel like I live in a large city right now with no infrastructure.
And Mayor, I would just reiterate, this is not for approval. This is for transmission to certain state agencies to determine,
Yes.
well, if the infrastructure is capable.
Yes, I think everyone on the commission understands that correctly, that we're not approving. We're just transmit, if we were to vote to do this, we would be voting to transmit to the state. It's a transmittal is what we're voting for tonight, if we should go in that direction.
Mayor, if I could,
Commissioner Aldridge.
thank you. I would like to speak to the homeowners because they have reached out and they've been very diligent in this. And I do want to say that it's been very difficult to work through this process for me personally. I can't speak for anybody else, but I do feel for the homeowners due to things that have taken place that I have gotten pieces of this story over the past. And, I do feel bad for you guys to a certain extent that things may not have gone the way you foresaw them going. That being said, I think it may also be a delineation of issues. We're not looking at, developing the entire piece of property. So I think that's something that the commission is going to have to discuss further with the homeowners and with the developers. But I don't necessarily see an issue with transmitting to Tallahassee to see what they say. There's no harm, no foul in that. It doesn't mean someone's going to go get a shovel and break ground the next day. So I just wanted to put that out there, Mayor.
Thank you, Commissioner Aldridge. Other comments from the commission?
Mayor, if I may. I'd just like to,
Yes.
I've received several emails and responded to some of them and, I know we've had people at our meetings and I see faces that are back tonight to talk about this and, I think we're weighing all options here and, I just wanted to say that, we've heard everybody and whichever way it goes, I just I always feel for somebody like this. This is the second or third one, we're dealing with Moat Highlands and now these Grants Mill people. And, I just hope we make the right decision and we'll see down the road that this thing could be, better for everybody. So I just really want to say that I appreciate people reaching out to me, and everyone's been a very personal message, and it moves you. So I just want to thank them, and whichever way it goes, I just hope that we're moving the city in the best direction. So thank you.
Thank you for those comments, Commissioner Parno. And just to take everyone back just for a moment about just Lynn Haven in general, the development over the years, we're looking right now at a 6-lane 390 that's, planned for Lynn Haven, cutting through the middle. And we had Highway 77 to cut right through the middle of Old Lynn Haven. So we've all, as the city continues to grow, development is going to be a part of that growth. And I think that at this point in time, I'm just offering my thoughts. They're certainly not everyone's thoughts, but as we continue to grow, the charge of the commission is not necessarily going to be about whether or not we grow, it's how we grow. And so there are no laws to prevent people from purchasing land and developing that land. It's our charge to try and make sure that land is developed to the highest and best purpose that looks at everyone's sensitivities and everyone's livelihood and everyone's family and try to make those best decisions based on what we're hearing from all parties. So it is difficult to sit in the seat and to make the decisions that will be best for this community, but I know everyone's taking it very seriously. So Ms. Richard, did you have something else you wanted to add?
Thank you, Mayor. Well said.
Thank you.
Yes, thank you. If you decide to transmit this, one of the state agencies that it will go to will be DOT. It goes to DOT, DEP. Now, I know they may not be that concerned with internal roads. However, under the traditional neighborhood development land use currently, they can build apartments. They could submit for a development order tomorrow for apartments. They can also build townhomes. In order to build the quantity that they would be able to build under the TND, they would have to submit to the state showing how the infrastructure is in place to support all those additional thousands of homes, and actually the infrastructure is in place.
Thank you. Are there any other comments?
Yes, ma'am.
Go ahead, Commissioner Tender.
I just want to make sure that I'm real clear on understanding this. This is simply a vote to send it to the state, correct?
It is a vote for transmittal to Tallahassee. You are correct, Commissioner Tender.
Okay, and therefore we will have another vote?
We will have probably several more votes on various stages of this development should we decide tonight for the transmittal to go forward.
Okay, thank you.
For the large scale plan amendment, there would need to be an ordinance adopted. Then thereafter, I'm sure there would be development orders and plans for the construction. So at the very least, for the large scale, there'll be an ordinance which is attached to the resolution which is sent. But that'll be an opportunity for this commission to vote after they've heard the feedback from the state, if that's what they wish to do.
Were you able to hear all of that from Mr. Albritton, Commissioner Tender?
I heard a little bit of it, but I got the gist. I think he just said we're going to have lots more discussions on this and many ways to vote
Yes.
after this.
Yes.
Okay. Thank you.
You're welcome. Anyone else from the board?
Mayor, I have one last question.
Go ahead, Commissioner Aldridge.
Amanda, Ms. Richards, how long does it generally take in your experience to get, once you transmit that letter, what is the turnaround time on that?
So once they receive it, if you vote to transmit, we'll be getting it out this week, probably tomorrow. Once they receive it, they have 30 days. This is all the state agencies. They have 30 days to get their comments to us. Generally, what they do is if they have an issue, if they want more information about roads or water or sewer or whatever, then they'll let us know and we get that information and send it to them. They have 30 days for review. And then after the 30 days, they will send us a letter telling us whether they allow you to go ahead and have the first reading of the ordinance. If you choose to adopt the change, it would be by first reading for ordinance by title only, and then the public hearing, a second reading of the ordinance. If you do that, you have to do it within 180 days, but you don't have to do it. They'll just be telling you whether they would allow it or not, or allow it with contingencies or changes.
Thank you. Are there other questions from the commission? Then at this point, I'd like to open the floor for comments or questions from the public. If someone would just step forward, thank you.
Greetings.
Greetings.
My name is Greg Blank and I live at 103 Sawgrass Way on lot 65. I purchased my home from Adams Homes in November 2019 and have been very happy with my home ever since. And with about 98% of my neighbors that live there as well. Angela Peoples is one of the selling real estate agents for Adams Homes and is now my friend. At the time when I put a deposit on my house around September 2019, she informed me that John David made an agreement, a handshake agreement from what I heard, with Adams Homes to sell 160 more lots, roughly 25 acres of land to build more homes. That was a partial deciding factor for me purchasing my house. More HOA dues means more maintenance and more amenities, right? Because we have a very small community right now. Since then, John David has gone back on his word. Had Adams Homes known he would not have kept his promise, they would not have come here to build. Adams Homes builds high quality homes at a reasonable amount of time. My home took about 6 months to build, and they build multiple homes simultaneously. I guess that's not fast enough for John David to line his pockets. That is why he is trying to sell 57 acres of land to an apartment developer. All he cares about is money and not our neighborhood. He is also the president of our HOA. It's nothing but broken promises. Mr. John David, basically, he lacks integrity. I've heard from numerous people. He's made us promises, and he's made lots of people promises and gone back on them. So my question really is, if he's going to build a 100-unit apartment complex on 57 acres, why can't he build 160 homes on 25 acres? Because that's roughly about how big our land is. We have about 25 acres, 140 homes. So that's pretty much all I have.
Thank you very much, sir. Is there anyone else?
Holly Spring, 209 Shoreview, homeowner in Mill Bayou. Well, I went to the planning meeting and I basically, from the information gathered there, under the current D&D the apartment complex could certainly exist. And as they said, you could have a development order today for that. It would certainly make it very difficult for the traffic back there and for the homeowners that are there. Our issue and my question is to the commission is there any way that we can attempt to hold John David accountable for some of the promises that he made for us with his future development and his choices going forward? Because we still don't even have our streetlights, our finished roads. I mean, even the normal safety stuff that the Navy needs to continue. You know what I mean? We've got a whole back section that's very dark. We just still have the construction roads down on several areas. I'm not even talking about the amenities that were promised, like kayak launches and dog parks. And we all bought into what this was supposed to be, which was a community back there that would also have some shops, should have, some multifamily, all those kind of things. So we're disappointed. And you're right, there are two completely separate issues. And I understand that. But unfortunately, if he can do what he needs to do under the current T&D, why do we have to submit a change for mixed use when they can get where they want to go under the current zoning that exists today? So that is my question that I don't understand. And if you do choose to do other development back there, is there any stipulations that the city can make that he needs to finish some of the stuff in the current subdivision that he has not done or invested in?
And since I'm not a real estate attorney, I can't answer your question, ma'am. I do know there are certain limitations to developers in the city. Mr. Albritton, would you like to make a comment on the mayor's behalf?
Yeah, I would comment that the agreements, whether verbal or written, between yourself, and I'll just use you, that obviously there's a bunch of people here that are disappointed and then at the other meetings, but between yourself and a developer, that would be a civil dispute. The city cannot, if he promised ABC inside the HOA, and that was not part of a development order or something that the city specifically agreed to, then there's nothing the city can do to make him do that. Is that a fair response to your question? Okay. The city just does not have standing. The law would say you're a third party that has no right or standing to enforce whatever two private citizens agreed to at this point.
And if they can do what they want to do under the T&D, then I guess my question is, why mixed use? It's clear that they can do what they need to do, so why do we have to change from what the original master plan was back there?
Again, I would defer to the attorney, but I think the reason for that, and I'll let the attorney correct me, is that agreement was one that you made with this private developer, and this is an agreement that you're going to be basically making with the city, that we would agree to a land use change. Mr. Albritton, you'll have to help me with that.
Yeah, and I don't want to go down the rabbit hole of what may be coming, because ultimately this commission,
Just a transmittal that we're looking at.
this commission is not supposed to take into account what may be built in the future, because it could be something else. But that being said, my understanding is that under the T&D, additional commercial is required. With the change to mixed use, that additional commercial is not required. So instead of having an apartments and a dollar store, as it was presented to me in explanation, now we can just do the multifamily without the multifamily and the dollar store.
Thank you for that. I hope that clarified a little bit the absence of the commercial. So is there anyone else who would like to speak this evening? And I apologize for deferring answers to the attorney, but I just don't want to try and make legal answers to questions that I'm not qualified to make, ma'am.
Mayor?
Commissioner Tender, we have a member of the public speaking, and then I'll come back to you.
Okay, thank you.
Go ahead.
Man, I'm Lieutenant Steve, and I've been out there in Mill Bayou about 2017 is when I met John David, about September 2017. I'm John David's HOA vice president. I got that because John David is the declarant of the area. He's a land developer declarant, and he is the president. So we've done a lot of things since then. But I met John David thinking the doc that the realtor told me was the HOA's doc, but actually belonged to JD, what you call John David. I was inquiring about replacing the missing boards. JD asked me to put together an HOA board. That is what I did. We went from a committee of members to a board that is making things happen. And I could talk about several things if you guys ask me about that, but I'm going to keep this to my 3 minutes. A lot of things that we have done as a board since last June. Let me go down here. John David has gone above and beyond to help our neighbors. Me personally, I've seen him do things for other neighbors with his heavy duty equipment that he does every day. I personally watched a homeowner belittle him over something he did on his own property. Not all, but a few homeowners believe they should have their view of the woods untouched. How dare he build anything on the land his family bought? I've never seen anything so privileged. If the concerns were valid, I would understand. Progress will continue, and that is not a bad thing. I'll leave on this here. A lie could get halfway around the world before the truth can get its pants on. That's all I have.
Thank you, sir. Is there anyone else who'd like to speak? Yes, ma'am.
Hi, my name is Susan Long. I live at 138 North Shoreview Drive.
Miss Long, could you adjust the microphone just a
Yeah,
little
I'm just
bit?
tall.
Thank you. Thank you
Okay.
so much.
I'm Susan Long. I live at 138 North Shoreview Drive in Mill Bayou. And I brought copies because I'm going to try to stick to under my 3 minutes, Margot, because I know the last time I did not.
Just
So
try to get
if
as
I can
close as you can. It's a
Okay,
public hearing. We
okay,
want
I
everybody to
just was going
speak.
to leave these in case. My first concern is the traffic congestion. The school's still there, 2,000 kids, 200 or so staff, teachers, everybody exiting and entering twice a day. The apartment complex that they're planning to put in is going to have an exit into that same road. So you're looking at a couple hundred more cars going in and out of there every day. I understand that there has to be development. The problem is when the prior city commission approved the construction of that school on both sides of that road, they made the problem. There's going to be a problem for the rest of the development that comes up that road. I don't think you can fix it. You're going to have to find a way to make it safer for the kids. And if any of you go out and look, they have done next to nothing to make that a safer crossing for the kids. So the traffic congestion is a serious problem. The people in the neighborhood have paid, we average over $250,000 per house. And my concern is that if you start piecemealing the rest of this out, what happens to the overall plan for the TND? Where does it go? How are we protected? We bought into that when we bought. We bought the plan for the traditional neighborhood and we paid the price on the houses for that. What's going to happen? I mean, these are just open-ended questions. I don't expect an actual answer today. Okay. I'm still confused about their application stating that the density is going to go down. Because if you read in the comprehensive plan, you'll see that the mixed use allows up to 20 residential units per acre. And the TND only allows 10. So I don't understand. I don't understand where their whole proposal is going. I don't get the density. They say it's going to drop with mixed use, but that's not what the comprehensive plan says. I want to know how the zoning change is going to impact future development within the TND. If they build the currently allowable 100 multi-unit complex, what happens to the one that's allowed in the TND? Are we going to then have 2? You know, I don't know. Is this going to take the place of the one that's already approved for the TND? Or is there going to be another one up the road? With state approval, they can't go above 100 in the TND without state approval to prove that the transportation in the schools will not be affected. I don't see that there's any way that can be proven. I'll be happy to go to Tallahassee and tell them what it's like to get in and out of there in the morning. You know, it was just, I don't know what you do in a case like this. It was just a bad decision back when it was made to begin with. And I'm back to Holly's statement. If this is already allowable, and I'm going to the lawyer's response, if this is already allowable under the TND, why do they need to change the zone? And they're saying they need to change the zone so they don't have to do the commercial. You don't have to put the commercial there. It can go anywhere in the TND. That's not a reason to change the zoning. You can put that 5% anywhere in the TND. It doesn't have to be there. So I don't get that either. And finally, at our last meeting, this commission, the city commission, decided to hold a workshop to really delve into all of the issues. Why aren't we doing that? And that's all I have to say.
And,
Thank
and
you.
I would respond, pardon me, I would respond that again, tonight, thank you for your comments, Mrs. Long. And tonight, the commission is considering the transmittal of this to Tallahassee only. And there will be further meetings and probably an opportunity for the public hearing and an opportunity for you to make those kinds of questions and comments and receive some viable answers. But tonight, however the commission votes, it's only on the matter of transmittal of this to Tallahassee. Mr. Albritton, please feel free to jump in if I start doing your job. Thank you. Is there someone else who would like to speak? Thank you.
My name is Jeff Kibble. I live at 110 Redfish Way. When my wife and I moved to Lynn Haven, we moved here because of the community. And then also this Mill Bayou development, we were sold the same fancy community that everyone else was sold. And I guess what's frustrating with this is I understand they want to transfer this to mixed use, and your comment about building that dollar store or whatever, we were sold the quality of the T&D. And so if they did move forward with building this dollar store, my understanding is it'd be a pretty fancy dollar store, probably fit in well with our community. So, I guess what I'm wondering is why would we move forward with transferring this to Tallahassee and open the door to moving forward with this when everyone in here was sold something nicer, and we're going to open the door to basically taking our community in a completely different direction than what we were originally sold. So that's all I have. Thanks, guys.
Thank you for those comments, sir. And if I may, Ms. Richard, I'll come right back to you, but Commissioner Tender asked two people to go to make a comment, and I forgot about you because your face is not here, Commissioner Tender. Please go ahead with your question. I do apologize.
No problem. And it's a email, so I'm just going to read it. It says, I know the Mill Bayou rezoning is on the agenda for tonight's meeting. Please consider the residents in the Mill Bayou subdivisions and our concerns. It may not be John David's name on the application, but it's the same agenda. We don't want to see our home values drop or crime increase in our neighborhood. And the other is kind of a personal thing, so I'm not going to say that.
Was that the completion of what you wanted to say, Commissioner?
Yes,
Okay.
yes, I'm going to leave it right there. Yeah.
Thank you so much. Ms. Richard, you had a comment to make, I believe.
It was just a general comment. It isn't really regarding the transmittal. I just wanted to, because there's been a lot of questions regarding a T&D and keeping it as a T&D. So far, nothing that has been constructed on that development has been constructed as a T&D. The city wanted originally years ago, before the first economic downturn, the city was very excited about having a T&D. Unfortunately, there was a crash in the economy and nobody's interested in developing that as a T&D anymore, unfortunately.
Thank you. Yes, go ahead.
I talked to John David yesterday in my garage. We had a conversation about this here. I guess the confusion is there is no 100 apartment complex. What they're building is what they call a McMansion. So that's basically a building with 10 homes in it, and it loads from the back. The garage is on the back side. There's two lots. One as you go out Mill Bayou, before you make the turn and go out to 390. There's a straight there. That's that lot. That's the bigger lot. Then there's a lot up by 390. That's a smaller lot. There is no 100 apartment complex that's going up. I don't know where that came from. That's not from John David. That's not from the builder. That's what the homeowners or somebody spread that bad rumor. That is not true. It's not 100. It's not 100 apartment complex building that's going up there.
Thank you, sir. Are there other comments from the public? Yes, ma'am.
Thank you. My name is Lori Ubowski from 108 Shoreview Drive. And Steve, I'm really glad that you brought that up because one of
If
the
you would
things-
address your comments to the commission.
Yes.
Thank you.
I'm glad that Steve brought that up because one of the issues that we've had, and as we've established habits, I was here last time we spoke, and I've emailed much of this to you, but I'm going to deter from this a little bit, is that there is no transparency, there's no accountability, there's no communication with the residents. Is there any with you as far as what the intentions are to use that land? So it comes as no surprise if people think, oh, there's a 100-unit apartment complex. We've not heard of a McMansion. Okay. So none of that is communicated. There's no transparency. So that breeds mistrust. Commissioner Tinder, I was very grateful for your question also, because that is a good question. Like if this is another exception he has to rezone, and this is just a portion of that land, what happens with the land that comes up in the future? Are we going to keep piecing together this really great space that has a lot of potential to be well thought out and well planned? No, we're piecing it together because of desperation, because of funding, because of financial problems, as it were. So I just wanted to kind of point that out. My biggest concern I don't know where the clock is. Where is it?
You're fine. Go ahead.
Okay. My biggest concern as someone who's lived in the neighborhood since 2015, have 3 children who walk to North Bay Haven every day, walk back and forth. The traffic and the safety is a major concern. And I actually spoke with North Bay Haven administration today. They apologize for not being able to send someone themselves because they're getting ready for reopening and graduation coming up. So I was given permission to also express their concern with the safety and the traffic and being opposed to this as well. So my concern is, have we thought through however many units are going to go back in that space? We have the neighborhood to the east of us on 390, which is the tightest connection. And then we have another neighborhood on Cato Road and coming in. How many houses? I don't know. But it doesn't take a genius to figure out that we're already congested. When I was displaced for a year because of the hurricane and had to drive in instead of walk, I mean, we would have to leave incredibly early. It was incredibly frustrating and already bottlenecked every day. I can't imagine dealing with that every day the way it is now. So we're going to add all these units. And what do you all know about the Titus bypass connector to our Mill Bayou Boulevard, to our neighborhood? What do you know about that? I mean, I'm really asking seriously, because when is enough enough? It's not going to work. I don't know. I'm sorry, I can't remember your name. You said the infrastructure is in place, but if you spend some time in that neighborhood in the morning or in the afternoon, I just don't believe it. I'm so sorry. But anyway,
I think the city planner's comments were that legally the infrastructure is in place as far as the state's concerned. Yes.
Okay.
It was not her opinion. It was just.
Sure. I mean, but the question is just more of a hypothetical, like, what does it work? You know, and John David may be a very nice man, and no one's here to discuss if he's a nice man or not. It's to discuss the results. A nice person does not guarantee a good business decision. It does not guarantee a good decision for the surrounding community, for the neighborhoods, for the many people that are affected by the decisions that happen in this development. So that's really just my plea to you, is that you're thinking about the big picture and all of these snowball problems that are caused by something that's not thought through well. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Mayor, if I could just,
Go ahead.
the commission is legally at this point not allowed to consider what could happen if the land use change occurred. So whether it's 1,000 apartments
Yes.
or McMansions or anything else that is not appropriate for the commission to consider at this
Yes.
point in time, that will be for a later discussion and votes and considerations and legal authorities for that, but not today.
I thought I had explained that earlier, but thank you again. But once more to the public, the commission tonight is not considering, as the attorney said, you know, what might be there. What we're considering tonight is a land use change and its transmittal to the state. That's the only thing. And I would advise the commission again of that. That's what you're looking at tonight. Although we'll continue to take comments from anyone who would like to speak. And I did not mean that comment to sound cold and insensitive to anyone's comments here. It's just, that's the fact of what we're looking at tonight. So anything else from the public? Mr. Slanina?
This is probably the least social distancing microphone I've ever done.
Yes, it is. Just.
So I'm going to speak up. When we first started this endeavor, I think what I did is I heard what a lot of citizens and residents of Lynn Haven, like I've been for the last 30 years, and some of their gripes and things. Part of the reason this amended application has been submitted is to divorce ourselves from a lot of the concerns that they said. 668 acres of mixed use. Well, the answer is yes, you can do what you can do in mixed use. There are some things you can do in TND, like bars and clubs and stuff that you can't do, but in general, it was an unknown. By listening to that and somewhat separating us from the emotions of the HOA, but listening to this composite area, the vision of a TND out there doesn't exist. And everybody here that has a house are part of that non-compliant. It just didn't work. And even all of the houses that are out there are non-TND. All that being said, why do we want mixed use? And I'm introducing the second Gordon Taines, the president and owner of Arbitrace Properties, who's developed 4 or 5 apartment complexes, all gated, all market rate, no Section 8s, no tax deferred, things like this, in Lynn Haven, largest taxpayer, that has never sold an apartment complex that he's developed. He keeps them and he keeps them up. And if you've been to him, you'd see. But the purpose of a mixed use is because, number one, Arbitrace is mixed use, and we can develop the quality product we would like. But in a TND, we are mandated to create something from 40 to 320 acres. And the pie has to have all these pieces, 5% commercial, 5% civic, I think it's 10% recreational open space, and then the residential component. To allow us to get the apartment complexes we're proposing, we need to buy another 10, 12, 15 acres. And a big chunk of that, 5 acres, is going to be commercial. We don't do commercial. Gordon doesn't do it. If he had to do this, he'd carve it out per the approved plan, and he'd sell it to a realtor who would put whatever commercial is allowed there. And it's going to be at the corner of the new county road if it comes in, and north of, right in their middle of the rest of the homes. I'm sure they would like a Mercado and all the nice things that we have, envisioned in all the TNDs that did succeed. But that's why we're doing this, is because it fits what Gordon does. He wants to commit to you, so you know what's going in mixed use there. The lady talking about the level of intensities and all, it is, mixed use is half the density. It's less on lot coverage, and it's less than a half of height requirements. That we'll visit that later. But at this time, one last thing. The comprehensive plan has already approved the build out of Mill Bayou. It's in the comprehensive plan. Then there's a second paragraph. It says just until such time as there's adequate water, sewer, roads, then you need to hold it to this. Well, we've got $2.5 million worth of water and sewer and reuse running from 390 all the way to 2321 and Deer Point Elementary. We've got a 6-laning 390. Already PD&E's is pursuing right-of-way acquisition. It's there. So, so really what we're saying is we're bringing a basket of apples. We're going to show you the apples. They're good apples, and they're not tax subsidized apples. And if I could ask Gordon if you can make a cut on the chairs.
And while this gentleman is making his,
I'd glad to answer any questions.
thank you. Anyone have a question for Mr. Slanina? While this gentleman is, go ahead, Commissioner Perno.
Mr. Slonin, can you answer the lady's question about the Titus Road project?
Commissioner Perno, could I interrupt you just for 1 second? Then you can ask that question. Could I please? While Mr. Slanina is talking about if this transmittal were to go through and if several other processes happen and are approved as we go, that he's, I think, trying to show some transparency about what the possibilities are. I want to, as Mr. Albritton did a moment ago, caution the commission. While the transparency is beautiful, tonight you're looking at transmittal, and listen to, I think this is very informative for those residents who are here. It's very informative for the public. But the commission, please keep in mind that we are considering a vote tonight on the transmittal only to the state. Sorry to interrupt you. Go ahead, Mr.
You're 100% right, Mayor.
But-
I was just trying
but
to
I think
explain
this-
why
but I
we're
think it's
gearing
great.
in, because we're wearing that transparent clothes.
And I appreciate the transparency. Commissioner Perno, please go ahead with your question.
I just wanted to ask if you knew of the Titus Road project to answer her question.
Thank you, sir.
The young lady who just spoke, she had asked, she gave us.
What I know about it is that the county is proposing the original Titus Road bypass went basically north-south and ties into 390. The latest adjustment that's being proposed is a new leg of it that's going to go east-west and bring people into this development from the county development that DR or Joe, whoever is developing over there. And since it connects to Deer Point Lake directly, all the people that live up there that may have kids going to school are going to come to a signalized intersection. That's the cherry of Mill Bayou Boulevard. It's a signal, where the original Titus Road was not a signalized intersection. Between 390 and 23, between Mill Bayou and 231, that's where the other road comes in, but it's not signalized. That's what I understand. What we've done is and all I know about that is working with the county where they're conceptually showing the road coming in. We have limited our northern purchase parcel. So that's the only thing I know. That's why I know what I know, is that I know the last time I talked to the public works director over there, actually county engineer, Josie, she says they're probably about 3 months out for being able to even tell me the elevation of the road that's going to come through. And I don't know if they've made any overtures to the city about approvals, but that's the only reason I know, is I didn't want to buy land that might be a road.
Thank you, sir. Gordon?
My name is Gordon Thames, 215 Rose Hill Lane, Tallahassee, Florida. Really here mainly for questions because I know
For the purpose of the public hearing, do you swear or affirm that the testimony you're about to give will be the truth, whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
yes. It mainly just to answer questions because I've listened to the city attorney and I know there's a lot of specifics I could talk about, but I also heard that that's not really a part of what you're supposed to consider.
Well, it's a public hearing, sir, and you can make comments on any topic that you like about this. I'll just caution the commission about what we're considering this evening.
Okay.
Go
well,
ahead.
Mainly to address
But you
really
have
what
to
we
speak
hope
to
would be
us.
future neighbors, and I'll speak to y'all. I think some of y'all we've spoken to individually, so
Yes, you
you're aware of it. Things you might not be aware of. We actually run Eagles Landing, Arbor Trace, and the Enclave Apartments, which y'all may or may not be aware of, but they're all on major roads: Harrison Avenue, Baldwin Avenue, 390 State and Jinx. We started here in 1991. Recently, we collected our insurance broker confirmed second largest insurance claim in Hurricane Michael, second only to the United States Air Force, a little over $90 million. We reinvested every penny of it, rebuilding what's here in Lynn Haven and more. So I tell you that, not that anybody, you just ask who you're dealing with. And I've heard a lot of angst about John David this, John David that. We have been here since 1991. We've got a proven track record. What we build is a very high quality, well-run community. The nature of America includes rental housing. Many people who rent from us pay as much or more, with all due respect, in rental payments as some of y'all pay in mortgage payments. That's really not meant to be a slight or anything. It's just a part of changing America. So some of y'all are in the Air Force. I'm sure some of them are temporary stations. The communities that we have in mind are based on two that are recently completed in Tallahassee, Florida. And we'd welcome to have any of y'all go visit them. I don't think now's the time to really get in the dog and pony show due to the commission's charge, but I'm here to answer any questions if anyone has any.
Does the commission have any questions that you'd like to ask? If the public, how we can do this, if you'd like to just, if you're in the public, if you'd like to address your question from where you stand, you have to address the question to the commission, but I'll allow Mr. Gordon to answer it. Okay, thank you.
Well, we prefer the term apartment community. It's a luxury apartment community. I can show you pictures. I can direct you to ones we've just finished building. The product is mainly centered on something they call a big house product, which is what they alluded to, which is it'll feature mainly about a 1,700 square foot, 3-bedroom, 2-bath apartment with an attached 2-car garage where you drive right in. The main difference between that and your home is if you rent this, you have no yard work. You have a full staff at the office to take your package. You have a full amenity slate of workout rooms, pools, nicely kept landscape grounds, walking trails, things that I think some of y'all have been promised. But if you go look at what we've recently done in Tallahassee, it would show you a very close comparison of what we actually have in mind in doing here. I think what I'm really here to try to reassure you is that you look at what somebody says, what they do. What we've done recently for the last 2 years is basically camp out here in Lynn Haven and rebuild 3 communities that were 1990s vintage, 2 of them, into a very nice modern 2020. In other words, we reinvested more. Property values. I've yet to see a case in my 30 years where our community's ever lowered anybody's property value. And our crime rates, are, believe it or not, are lower than the single family neighborhoods around us because we're fully staffed. We have courtesy officers and other things. I could go on and on. I know all of y'all invested a lot, and it's a lot. We are going to invest $50 million or more. So we are just as interested in your property values, trust me, as you are. And we believe that both of us are going to do well. And this will be a step in the right direction, I think, for Lynn Haven, but also for your community, because you're going to finally get something positive going. That's a view from where I sit.
Are there other questions?
Mayor, I guess the issue is, because I came the same problem when I moved in, I was promised things from my realtor. As a homeowner out there, can we see something in writing from your company, not verbal, not handshakes? Because that's what happened. A lot of confusion was, DR said this, John said this. We want to see something in writing this time.
And sir, if I could interrupt there, I understand. I understand. But at this point in time, I don't want to digress too far because we're going to have many more meetings if we should move forward tonight, when these types of questions can come up. I think tonight, very graciously for transparency, these 2 gentlemen were just trying to present a picture.
I'll give you 2 answers to that. Number one, in the luxury rental business, our communities don't do very well if we don't have all the amenities already constructed. So typically before we open, all of that is completed. No promises. I mean, we wouldn't do very well leasing. We charge a very premium rent. People renting from us have lots of choices. So number one assurance is you'll actually see what's there. In other words, when we finish our lenders and whatnot, we have to be 100% finished. So it really doesn't depend on that. Number 2, I've basically offered assurances to this commission that if, hold our feet to the fire, we're going to build what we show you. Now's not the right moment for the specifics from what I'm understanding.
Yeah, it is. But just for our insurance, because I'm a homeowner out there too, and so we understand that there will be something in writing for us.
Yes, but I believe our obligation to comply with the city's laws and their development order is between us and them. And so the homeowners and I, it's nice to meet you for the first time, but we have no past.
And so this conversation can continue privately wherever you like, but for the sake of the meeting, I need to continue now. So is there any other question from anyone that you'd like to address to the commission that can be possibly addressed here?
We have a lot of houses in our neighborhood right now that are not selling.
Well, I can tell you, we built our first one here in 1991. We've done pretty well with them since then. We have a number of units in a number of communities. So far, we've been blessed, but they all stay pretty full, and we pay close attention to the market. But typically, when the houses don't sell or people have problems to get a divorce, the next place they're coming is to a luxury apartment community.
So if there are other questions, I want to thank you, Mr. Selena, and thank you so much for coming this evening. And we'll move on unless there's anyone else in the public who has a comment to make.
Mayor, I do have a comment I think that was submitted on YouTube. If someone would read that, just send me a text, but send me the comment. Nolan, do you have that comment?
Okay, so just a comment, and with all the new building, where is all the new industry? So that is a good question, and we hope that as we continue to recover from Hurricane Michael and our cities become more beautiful here, that more industry will hope to locate here. That's my hope, and I know we have a great economic developer here on the staff who works very hard to pursue that. Is there any further discussion from the commission? Any from the public? The motion, if I recall, long ago, was a motion for discussion purposes only. So is that motion still on the floor, or where are we going from there?
I'll amend the motion to include approval, ma'am.
So there's a motion on the floor for approval of transmittal, discussion and possible approval of the transmittal of resolution 2020-07-332. So is there a second?
I'll second the motion.
Been a motion and a second. Any further discussion? There appears to be none. Any further from the public? There appears to be none. Mrs. Gaynor, would you please call the roll?
Commissioner Russell,
Yes.
Commissioner Perno,
Yes.
Commissioner Aldridge,
Yes.
Commissioner Tender,
Yes.
Mayor Anderson.
Yes. And so this is approved for the transmittal. For those of you who have attended tonight, your comments were not lost on this commission. There'll be many more discussions, many more public hearings, many more times to ask questions. And we appreciate the potential developer coming tonight and for discussing and being so transparent with the public. Thank you so much. Moving on to item number 16. This is a first reading of ordinance 1083 regarding body altering businesses. There is no action necessary tonight. Director of Planning, do you have any comments?
I just have one comment, and that is that it did go to, even though you're not voting tonight, it did go to the planning board on July 6th, and the planning board or the planning commission unanimously recommended that the city does not make the changes. I also wanted to point out that on the commission agenda report, under staff recommendations, it says staff recommends approval. That's a typo. Staff actually has no recommendation. It's entirely up to.
Because we probably need to have that corrected in the
Yes.
in the minutes for next time. And
Yes.
so at this time, if the city manager would please read number 1083, ordinance number 1083.
An ordinance of the City of Lynn Haven, Florida, amending Chapter 2, Section 2.04.05 of the Unified Land Development Code, removing schools, daycares, and parks from the distance limitations and removing any reference to schools, daycares, and parks, authorizing codification, repealing ordinances in conflict, providing for severability, and providing for an effective date.
Thank you. And since no action is required, we'll move on to the next item, item number 17. This also is a first reading of ordinance number 1097. This is regarding code enforcement of derelict commercial signage within the city limits. There will be no action necessary. If you could please read the ordinance, Mrs. Gaynor.
An ordinance of the City of Lynn Haven, Florida, amending Chapter 5 of the Lynn Haven Code of Ordinances, providing for penalties and prohibition, authorizing codification, repealing ordinances in conflict, providing for severability, and providing for an effective date.
Thank you. I noticed that this item is for the police chief. Did you have any comments you wanted to make, Chief Ramey? Not at this time. Thank you. We'll move on to item number 18. And I do apologize that I had 4 items tonight and they're all right at the end when you're all very tired, but I'll try to go quickly with them. Item number 18 rather, discussion and possible action concerning issuing parking decals for the boat trailers of Lynn Haven residents without charge and selling parking decals for boat trailers of non-residents to manage the parking issues we're having now with cars and trailers in the area surrounding Porter Park Boat Ramp. We've had to put no parking signs on many of those residential streets. And I did attend the county commission meeting last week and spoke to the county commission and asked them if they would, I told them I was going to be bringing this before this board, and asked them if they would assist us by looking at the boat ramp on 2321 and Highway 77A, which is on the north side of the bridge by the Deer Point Lake and the saltwater side. That is a large area there, the boat ramps. I asked them if they would consider, as they're looking at grants and all, if they would consider improving that, maybe putting a park there, some restrooms, some things that would be attractive to people in the county. Not that we don't welcome everyone to come to Porter Park, but if you visited there anytime recently, you will notice the congestion. So I had talked with city manager, and if you go to the state park, you have to pay a fee to put a boat in out there, and just to try and give our residents more access to what their taxes pay for here in the city, if we would just issue these decals to residents who have a Lynn Haven address, Lynn Haven driver's license, and then others who wanted to use the boat ramp would purchase a decal. The city manager and I discussed a price of $100 for a year. There might, if you were interested, you might have something else in mind. But anyway, just wanted to throw that out and see what your thoughts might be. So there it is.
Mayor, for me.
Yes.
Wouldn't there be an enforcement issue as people pull up to the ramp, and we'd have to, there'd probably have to be an attendant of some kind to just.
I agree with you that anytime that you have a policy in effect, that there's an enforcement, but there's enforcement right now that they're having to go and ask people to move out of people's driveways and that kind of thing.
I get why we'd want to do it, and not our residents, I get the whole thing, but it's going to create people are going to slide in there anyway without a decal or whatnot, so.
I concur completely that there would have to be enforcement.
I think we'd have to, put signage and go that route. So,
I agree with you.
But I just wanted to just throw that out there. I think it's a great idea, and just a little devil's advocate there that it's gonna lead into an enforcement type of thing. So, and what months we'll have to do it. I mean, we want to do it all year, but
Mayor, while I think it may be a great idea to do this, but I also contend that if we do this on the enforcement side, we need to have some kind of penalty. If you catch somebody there without a decal, we're going to have to be able to ticket them. Otherwise, if you don't have some kind of penalty, why would they buy the vest to begin with?
Yeah, there's always devil in the details, which could be worked out. But I guess my question tonight would just be if you would support something like this, and just to let staff maybe explore how we would do it, and then maybe bring it back in a more detailed form. But I didn't want to go there until I just saw how you felt.
Mayor, if I could, can we have city staff look into, does any of the other cities or municipalities charge for their boat ramps?
I would answer that not so much about boat ramps, but where I really got the idea was from watching what the beach has done to try and provide parking for their residents for access to the beach. So I was thinking the same thing, but as far as the boat ramps, I don't know the answer to that.
And I'm just speaking out loud here. Just my thoughts. So that was the only with holdback I have is do we want to be the redheaded stepchild, the only one that's going to charge something like that? But
it might encourage them to go to the other cities.
maybe so. And I'm sure maybe the county will get involved and hopefully clean up some of their stuff. But it's something I definitely think we should look at. I don't think it's a bad idea, Mayor. So I'm not going against that necessarily.
Yeah.
Thank you.
And I also think that the idea of you trying to get the county to fix the one on 2301. I mean, I have told many boaters that, hey, listen, when it's full here, go there. So if we can get the county, that'll help too. Yes, ma'am.
So I guess discussion and possible action, the only thing that I would ask for is maybe just a motion to ask staff to kind of maybe come up with a plan of how we could do this if you're in favor of it.
Mayor, I'd like to make that motion.
Hold on a second. Albritton, what did I do wrong?
Nothing.
Did I sort of make a motion without meaning to?
I'm the only one with my back turned to him. So
I would just like to avoid an hour discussion on what intent was. So I'm asking, is this for just the users of the boat ramp or for users of the entire municipal facility?
My intent was the people who put a boat in and then take the cars with the boat trailer attached and park it all over the city streets and in people's driveways. And yes, that was the intent.
That's all I wanted to know. I've already done a little legwork on this. So are you Commissioner Perno, is your motion for having staff look into the proposed restrictions on users of the boat ramp at this municipal facility?
Yes, I'll word it in that way, so we can, but also, the permitting, a whole way of, enforcement, the whole thing, so.
That staff would bring us
Yeah,
a plan.
the staff would go ahead and do signage at the ramp and so forth, so.
I'll second that motion.
There's been a motion and a second. Is there further discussion?
Mayor, if I may.
Sure.
When I first read this, I think it's a great idea, but I jokingly said I would not want to be the staff member at 5:30 on a Saturday morning when somebody tries to pull in a trailer that does not have a decal. And I would recommend that the staff that's going to create this ordinance or whatever to look at that, because that means we would have to have decals available all hours or whatever, or I think we could turn it into a real negative thing. And also, what do we do if everybody's willing to pay $100 and then we still have the problem that they're overparked?
I'm going to
Where
get
we
to that
gonna
on the next item. We make a lot of money.
Oh, yeah, I saw that. But I wouldn't want to turn people away if they still kept coming at the volume that they're coming now either. But that's all I have to say.
Thank you, Commissioner Tender. Is there any discussion? I'm sorry. Commissioner Perno, would you like to clarify again your motion?
Okay. I'd like to make the motion that we have the staff look at the idea that the mayor brought up about the boat ramp, about limiting the access or restricting the access to Lynn Haven residents, and then decaling for purchase for other residents, and how we would go about doing that, enforcement of it and so forth. So just the feasibility. Feasibility and restriction.
Well, the first motion that I heard,
Yeah, I think,
if I
we won't
could
get
just,
into all the detail.
we can go back.
All I need to know is, are we restricting users of the boat ramp or users of the park entirely? And it sounds like users of the boat ramp, and we can bring you back a
plan.
or as close to comprehensive as we can get for the commission to critique.
Is that good, Miss Julie? Okay. Commissioner Perno, are you good with that?
I'm good.
Okay. And everybody was, all right. Mrs. Gaynor, oh, excuse me. Did the public have any comments on this? Mrs. Gaynor, would you please call the roll?
Commissioner Perno,
Yes.
Commissioner Russell,
Yes.
Commissioner Aldridge, Commissioner Tender,
Yes.
Mayor Anderson.
Yes. Thank you so much. Item number 19. Again, my item, discussion and possible action concerning the purchase and installation of an ice machine. And I had researched twice the ice because that's the one that was the most popular on the internet, but there's several of them. To put an ice machine at the boat ramp as a revenue producing item for the city. Because if you fish, you know that sometimes you don't want to get out of your boat. You just pull up and somebody jumps on the dock. And if we had that there, I think we can make a lot of money. The investment is a sound one. I did a lot of research on it. And again, if you have thoughts of agreeing with it, it would sort of be the same, I think the same thing that I had asked before, is that it's something that we would have staff research, several different ones, maybe come up with some ideas of how it could be done. And there we go. So there's my idea.
Mayor, I'd like to make a motion that we ask the staff to look into putting ice machine not only at Porter Park, but if the commission decides to move forward with a boat ramp at Ken Griffin or at Kensaw, that we look at doing it there also.
A second.
Thank you. Is there a discussion from the commission? From the public, Mrs. Gaynor?
Commissioner Russell,
Yes.
Commissioner Aldridge,
Yes.
Commissioner Perno,
Yes.
Commissioner Tender,
Yes.
Mayor Anderson.
Yes, and just for a bright spot in tonight's meeting, this long meeting, I did in some of the research, I saw that some of those machines make up to $500,000 a year. So it was kind of exciting that we could use that to do the next item. Item number 20, discussion and possible action to explore the feasibility and cost of an additional boat ramp at Kensaw Park near the dog park area so that all of the county won't be mad at us for what I said about Porter Park. There is a deep water channel there, and we own some property there. There's some property there that could be bought There's lots of parking. It's just a thought. So take that and go with it as you wish.
Yeah, I'll make the motion. I think it's a good idea to look into it. I'll make the motion to have staff do a feasibility and cost study on an additional boat ramp at Kensaw Park near the dog ramp.
So moved, or, yep,
Second.
second.
There's been a motion and a second. And one thing that I didn't put in there, but I'm sure it would have to be part of it if we were to approve this, that staff would also have to look at DEP, because I'm sure there's some things there would have to be looked at as well. So is there any discussion from the commission? Commissioner Tender, are you still there? All righty. Anybody from the public have any comments? All right, moving right along. Mrs. Gaynor, would you please call the roll?
Commissioner Aldridge,
Yes.
Commissioner Russell,
Yes.
Commissioner Perno,
Yes.
Commissioner Tender, Mayor Anderson.
Yes. Wow, it's moving right along here. This last item, number 21, that was my thought. And before I even read it, this is no reflection on our present city manager at all. This is just something that I would like to see us consider. Discussion and possible action concerning the creation of an assistant city manager position. And I have a couple of reasons for that. The first one would be the perilous times in which we're living right now with COVID-19. To have a person who could run the city if our city manager became ill, God forbid, if that happened. Another is that life is a very precarious thing. It doesn't necessarily mean that something nefarious or bad has to happen to someone. It could just mean that for some reason that person has to move on and do it quickly for whatever reason. Or there's just a large number of reasons that we would not have a city manager. I would just like us to consider having that position, and that it would be one, again, like the city manager, that is sought after and hired by the commission. It would be as important a position as the city manager position, because that person would be working with the city manager closely as our city grows. Mrs. Gaynor has a huge task as this city grows. This would give one person the opportunity to learn the other person's job. It would give her, her or he, whoever, one could be out in the field seeing what's going on while the other is handling what has to be handled in the office. It could be a very good working situation. But most of all, it would never leave us in the position that we found ourselves before, when we lost a city manager and it took us almost a year to get another one. And I just hated that position we were in. So those are my thoughts, and I'll just throw them out there. We may not be ready to do something like this yet. I think we are. Mrs. Gaynor and I've talked about it. She's not against it. She's not quite as enthusiastic about it as I am. I'll be quite honest. We talk but anyway, I wanted to throw that out there, that her position is not quite the same as mine. I didn't mean to put words in your mouth. I was just trying to be transparent. But that's where I am. So is there any discussion about it or thoughts?
Well, Mayor, yeah, I'll speak to it. I don't necessarily think it's a bad idea to have an assistant city manager either. What are our thoughts on it? I know we have a certain position budgeted already that's not filled, right?
That is
So I guess
correct.
some of the thoughts I have out loud is, would it be as easy as changing the name of the position or the title of the position that's currently budgeted? Or do we hire for that and then look at transitioning into an assistant city manager position from the current budgeted position? Which isn't a bad idea either, I don't think. But and then I guess my second question would be, would the assistant city manager, I agree with you, it'd be hired by the board, but would they still be reporting to the city manager? Or, I mean, we're not going to.
That would be for this board to decide.
Oh, okay.
And I know this has been a long meeting tonight, and this is a big decision. So I'm certainly not pushing for anyone to make a decision tonight. I have no problem with just somebody making a motion to table it for the next time, so you can all give it some thought. But I just wanted to bring it up. I think it's well worth thinking about. So I'm all for anybody that wants to make a motion to table it to the next meeting, because we are running late and I know people are tired. Commissioner Russell's ready, but I do think it's something that you all know what we've been through, and I don't want us to ever be in that position again. So
Well, I'll
with
make the
that.
motion. I'll make the motion. I agree. We need to talk about this. I agree. I'll make the motion that we move this down the road to an unspecified, or do I have to specify a commission?
It's a Democratic commission. You can say whatever you like,
I'll make the
Commissioner
motion
Aldridge.
that at this moment and this hour, this late, that it will be an unspecified time in which we will discuss in the next meeting or two.
A second kicking the can down the road.
Okay, thank you for that humorous. And keeping in mind that just because my items were the last 4 on the agenda, that mine went rather quickly tonight. I thank you all for your discussion and your positive attitude about this. There's been a motion and a second that we table this for either the next meeting or the next kicking the can down the road, I believe was the expression. Is there any discussion? Any from the public? Mrs. Gaynor, would you please call the roll?
Commissioner Aldridge,
Yes.
Commissioner Parno,
Yes.
Commissioner Russell,
Yes.
Commissioner Tender, Mayor Anderson.
Yes, and this meeting is joyfully adjourned.